Hey, everybody, it's Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. It is way too late to get the Christmas gifts now. You should have thought about it. Go make a gift. Or give the gift of the giant bombcast like we're giving you today. Episode 819, powered by NZXT. I am your host, Janicho. I've had way too much caffeine for 10 o'clock a.m. today, but it's all right. We're going to keep sipping. We got a glass loaded up. There's for you audio listeners. It's loaded with the green juice. Joining me, as always, co-captain of the ship, Chef Grubb.
I'm the opposite. I had blood removed from my body this morning, and then I rewarded myself. Intentionally, yeah. I had my labs done, so I didn't eat for like 18 hours. So I rewarded myself with a breakfast buffalo chicken pizza. It was a personal size.
There we go.
But that was a good reward. So I'm doing good over here.
Master of blood and all things blood related, Dan Reichert.
That's me. Hello.
Yes. How are the blood arts doing today, Dan?
My knees are no longer bleeding. Nor are my elbows from this weekend. So yeah.
Good all around then, it sounds.
The finger's fucked up, but like the blood is done. So yeah.
The blood is done. Mm-hmm. Just like the blood is never done also for our other blood master, our blood ambassador, Jeff Bakalar.
I'm very, very pro blood. I'm a pro blood guy. And speaking of NZXT, I just heard today that whoever won the machine, it's on the way. And I just want to thank again NZXT for giving away a freaking computer at Game of the Year Live, which was
that was cool.
That really taxable event.
Yes,
it's a taxable moment.
Yes,
we're using the euphemism moment instead of event.
Got it.
To soften the blow a little bit. I'm doing well. Blood's doing well. And I'm excited to hear about your blood report, Jeff Grubb. Just forward.
Oh yeah, I'll bring it all here. You guys, you'll be the first to know.
Okay,
getting the lipids, the triglycerides, all that, the whole gimmick.
The good lipids, the bad lipids, the medium lipids, all the lipids.
Look at you getting work done, Grubb. I remember earlier this year you saying, "I haven't done shit." Look at you ending the year strong.
That's right.
A couple months ago. Yeah, a couple months ago, you asking me like, "How do you see a doctor?" I was like, "What?" Like,
and now I was in a bad situation because I was asking Dan Reichert.
Yeah. Like, you should have a doctor.
Arguably the most like grown seeming out of all of us, Jeff Grubb, asking for medical advice.
Jesus Christ!
I'm like, oh, something's wrong.
Oh, why do that when I could procrastinate instead? That's always my motto.
Just take a soak in some Epsom salts, huh? We should go to a sauna together. Not like a fully. I mean, if you want, but whatever y'all want to do, or a hot springs. Let's do that.
Sure. Let's go to Iceland. Go to the hot
go to the Blue Lagoon. It's good as hell. Yeah.
Blue Lagoon. Okay.
I have a question. Hey, whatever happened with those bath salts that the Florida was doing? All those drug bath salts.
They ran out. They did them all.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Weren't people like eating each other?
Like people were like eating faces and stuff. And now
there was that face eating kid. Yeah.
I think that happened once.
See, I think
it happened once. Right?
You know what? In my opinion, once. That's too many times.
That is too many times. He's in jail,
that's
though.
Too many times.
I'm gonna say it wasn't the bath salts that did that. That was just that kid.
That could have been a kid situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just awoke it in him.
Eaters.
Yeah.
He was like at a restaurant with his parents, and then he just like calmly got up and left and went and like ate a dude's face and killed people.
That is what happened?
Yeah, I remember that story being like fucked up, and I followed it for a bit. And he was just having a dinner, and he's like, "I'm gonna go eat a guy's face and kill a couple."
Excuse me for a second.
What?
Yeah, it was fucked up.
Dan, do you know what he was eating for dinner already? Like, what if that awoken something?
I don't remember. There was security footage. I don't remember where they were at. It was somewhere in Florida, I want to say.
Because sometimes when you eat like a lasagna, right, the layer of cheese on top feels like you're ripping off skin. So that might have.
Oh, so we had a taste for. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So why deal with this imitation face when I can get the real deal? This is Florida after all.
Grubb, why'd you have to bring up bath salts?
You know,
why did we go here?
I'll tell you that much. I regret doing it. I don't know why I did, but here we are.
Epsom salt. This is on you, Jan.
Epsom salt.
Okay.
That's
true.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Thank you for helping me mind palace that out. It's the last live bombcast of the year, boys. What a Just came out of like a lovely all hands. We're talking about all the nice things we've done, and I'm like, oh wow, look at this, look at us. I just want to give everyone like a little hug and like a little pat on the back. There you go. That was nice. Yeah, that felt nice. Felt good for the warm embrace, right? Yeah, I'm ready to sleep for like 2 weeks.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, you especially.
I'm dying. I need to sleep for like 2 months. Yes.
Avoid any sort of mac and cheese incidents that might further your damages to your body and things like that. Yeah.
I would hope so. I think I'm pretty slammed through the end of the year, and I think January 2nd is when maybe I can have a normal existence.
Oh yeah, we're back to work on January 2nd.
Yeah, so that'll be perfect.
Well, normal existence, it's like doing work. It's fine. I'm talking about like travel and a bunch of other shit. Like I specifically yesterday, there was a moment where I realized I probably could get comped to the Royal Rumble and go to the like 2K event and stuff. Somebody was like asking me about it, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Oh my God, he said no, folks.
So, yeah,
folks, he said no.
Yeah,
it's good just to stay home. Stay home.
I want to stay home all January. Yes.
You know, yes. I'm a take over Dan's slot of doing too many things. I want to do too many things.
Yeah,
not that I don't like being here.
You don't do enough. That's what everyone always says.
Yeah, I just have the one plate, and I'm still learning how to spin it. And it's like,
we talk about how lazy you are a lot.
We did.
I know.
That's actually what most of the all hands meeting was about.
Yeah. I didn't get invited to the first all hands where that was, you know.
The we got to see your Discord chat and everything.
It said positive. It said positive.
Yeah, but then like it was like in 2 parentheses, so it's like. It cancels each other out.
Yeah, like this is a lie.
Yeah,
it's math. Yeah,
like PEMDAS, right? The fuck is PEMDAS?
Oh, is that the rainbow colors? Exponent, right?
Exponent,
multiplication, division, addition, subtract. We got there, folks.
By the way, I am like knee deep in math these days because, like, you know, kids bringing home some stuff that's like a little too advanced for other people in my family.
What grade is he?
He's 3rd.
What are they doing? They should be doing like times tables, right? At least that's what I was doing in 3rd grade.
They're doing like algebra stuff.
They're doing it different.
I don't think I got algebra till like the 5th or 6th grade.
Algebraic adjacent things.
Are they doing math different, or baccalaureate?
I don't know if they're doing it different. I mean, I think they're doing it in what appears to be a more intelligent way because it's, I don't know. I always remember like not realizing how important math was till I was like, 33, and I think, if someone broke it down in a way that I think they're trying to for kids under 10, where it's like, no, man, like you're going to need this, like, especially algebra and, basic math, like you will need that every day of your life, more or less. So it's just like breaking down like, okay, yeah, 6 times 6 is 36, but what else does that mean, right? And they're trying to like break it down like that, which I think is interesting. I don't know. I'm enjoying like having a bit of a refresh too.
6 by
well,
6
like
times
they'll
6.
break it down and they'll show you like a bunch, like a grid, and they'll be like, well,
Apples?
it's also 2 times 6 plus 4 times 6, right? So they'll like put those into parentheses and be like, hey, it's okay that it's not just counting 6 times. You can break it down to 2 times 6 and 4 times 6.
I will say that's actually like as a kid how I would do a lot of multiplication in my head was be like, okay, let me just do like 10 times that. So I break it up into one thing that's easy and then another thing that's easy. And
exactly.
I would just and I think they never taught us that. But
right,
that's
you
how
just organically like figure that out. And I think, and that's a good point you bring up. Like I think they're trying to get them to realize like you shouldn't be obviously counting on fingers. We're way beyond that, right? Like now you need to like understand instant associations and taking these kind of shortcuts and understanding like what you're doing. And it seems to be resonating. It's interesting stuff. I'm enjoying it. Math's fun. Math's cool. And math is always right. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's never like guess. You shouldn't be guessing. I went through this whole thing.
That's what I do with my bank account.
Stupid ass imaginary numbers. Fucking
sure,
assholes.
but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So, it's fun.
Hey, Grub, how are they teaching the gimmicks how to read? Because a teacher friend of mine, not my partner, in elementary, was flabbergasted that she had to teach kids how to sight read versus phonetically read.
Yeah, I will tell you, my wife being an early educator for a while, they go back and forth on that. Like sight reading for like, they're like, oh, that's actually the way you should do it. To like now, I think there's a little bit of a backlash towards sight reading, where it's like,
what is sight reading?
Where they want you like whole word recognition. When you look at a word, they want you to recognize it. They don't necessarily want you always to be sounding it out. Mostly it's hybrid now. There are definitely words that are sight words that you should just know by looking at them very early on, and they don't even like waste time being like try to sound out the no, just learn the. And so there's a handful, maybe 100 sight words that they're really focused on Emmy with, and she's in first grade now. And then everything else is sounding out, and she's like the sounding out stuff is what she's good at. The sight words take some time, and that problem with that is like she's got some bad sight issues, so that doesn't help. But yeah, they try to do both, and I will say they go back and forth.
Do they do the like Greek suffix and prefix stuff? Because I always liked that, because that would help you like learn what a word meant just looking at it.
Oh, like
that prefix
stuff?
means this.
Like,
Yeah. I was like that.
Yeah, they aren't doing a lot of that right now, but I talk about that with her. What do you mean, like Greek, like Latin, or do you mean Greek?
Yeah. It's like, this prefix, this suffix means this, and
sure.
So if you see this prefix attached to this, you can kind of parse out what that means.
They are on their way to that, but they're not doing that yet. She will get to that though.
Okay.
Wow, look at us talking about education and all that jazz. What else is popping off before we talk about games?
Jeez, what is going on?
Dan, you had an insane weekend. I mean, that's been your past weekends for the past year.
Yeah. I had that realization the other day where it's like, every Saturday for the last month plus has been like a 7+ hour show.
I haven't been able to forget all the four of us, Minotti, Grub, Dan, and myself in the elevator. I think the last night of the Game Awards, and Bacalar had already left, so you can't feel FOMO, Jeff.
Okay, good to know.
Of Minotti being like, Dan, we're tired. We can't go watch Face Off. And then Dan, you just yelling in his face, I'm tired too. I feel like I'm dying. Just 20 minutes.
And you know what? And I made him watch Face Off with me. So
yeah,
there
and
you
now
go. You got to rally when it's important. When things matter, you got to rally and make it happen. All right, we made it fucking happen. Grump fell asleep on the fucking couch. I made Minotti stay up and watch Face Off.
Yeah,
it was good
but
sleep too.
To what end? To what end? Listen to yourself.
Minotti
right?
has seen Face Off now. I made a life better.
Yeah, but you're telling you crawled through the desert for a week and a half.
It's worth it,
All right.
It's like an emotional hike that Dan is going on. An emotional and physical test of the body and the spirit is specifically testing Mike Minotti's spirit.
And the timing was perfect because I learned that Face Off, and in thinking about Face Off again, I realized that a 4K just came out and it just arrived in the mail today. It's got 7 deleted scenes. It's got audio commentary from John Woo. It's got a making of, it's like Out of the Dark and Into the Light, the making of Face Off. So when Bonk and I open our Christmas gifts to each other this week, we're going to watch all that stuff, and it's going to be a delightful holiday night.
That's the true meaning of Christmas.
Y'all got a good director's commentary movie you like watching, or you've
Gremlins 2. It opens with him. I think I've said this before. Gremlins 2. The director commentary opens up with Joe Dante. Is that the director's name?
Joe Dante.
Welcome to Gremlins 2, the most unnecessary of sequels. And then that attitude carries throughout the entire thing, and I really appreciate it.
That's fun.
Oh, he had a specific thing he was going for with that sequel. It's like, all right, if I have to make this fucking movie, I'm going to make it dumb as shit.
Yep. And he succeeded in a very good way.
Yes. What's the one with Schwarzenegger where he's just describing what happens on? Is it Total Recall where he's just describing now is the part where we're gonna get a divorce, but this isn't real, and he's just laughing at everything and describing it.
It's like, Arnold, I think you misunderstood what this is.
You're acting. All right. We got Game of the Year done. If this feels like the home stretch.
There is the community Game of the Year voting happening on the message boards right now. So you go to giantbomb.com, you log in. The community is voting on Game of the Year as we speak. So feel free to go in, weigh in on that.
Yes, I love our freaks at home. I'm just curious as to what they think the Game of the Year is.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be Baldur's Gate 3, but Alan Wake 2 could win. We'll see.
That seems right.
Who knows? It could be a Pikmin 4.
Hey, there we go.
That would be amazing.
Grub, I'm with you on so many things, but man, I've never been more with you than when you stood up there and you're really giving it to Pikmin 4 in a good way there. It was good for you.
And I felt good about it. That's how I knew it was this is the right choice. Because this makes me feel happy that I'm picking Pikmin 4.
Yeah, it's my number 2 of the year. But anytime I see someone go up there and be like, "Hey, let's give it to Pikmin," I'm like, "Yes, yeah." I feel like that's a more underdog, Tears of the Kingdom, I think is the bigger, better, more important game, blah, blah, blah.
Sure,
but
totally.
And I think that too. I think it's a better game. But Pikmin 4, I think, could use the kind of that rah-rah spirit.
It deserves it. It's like definitely the one that hit the hardest above its like heavy, like its weight, right? It's punching above its weight so much harder than any other game this year.
Yep. Agreed.
Well, we already started talking about games. Let's talk about games some more. Feels like the end of the semester.
We got senioritis in a way that I really can't put into words. It's just like I don't know, this time of the year. But you know what? I hope people can whenever I used to listen to podcasts when I did back in the day, I would like hear this in the voice of hosts and be like, yeah, I'm enjoying that with you. So I hope people are getting that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hundo.
Like
hundo.
This is the time of year. Enjoy the lackadaisical nature of it all, right?
Agreed.
Phone it in is what we're saying. Phone it in.
With Game of the Year over, it feels like we just completed finals, and I've been playing a lot of the finals. Holy shit, guys.
You're playing a lot?
I've been playing this a lot, and I blame Jeff Bakalar. For folks that don't know, this is the 3v3v3 shooter. PvP, you're going to unlock bank vaults and then cashing in the vaults, and then from there you are defending the vaults until the timer completes. There are 3 different classes here. It's light, medium, and heavy. The different classes have different weapons and different abilities. And let me tell y'all, this has unlocked a part of my brain that Team Fortress 2 and Monday Night Combat had occupied in my early adulthood.
Fun multiplayer competitive shooters.
Yes, exactly. Where like I just turn my brain off and the reflexes and muscle memory just goes.
Okay.
Specifically, I've been only playing as the light class. I discovered that at the tail end of that GB plays we did last week.
Because you're a zippy boy, right?
I'm a little zippy boy. Because the light class, one of its abilities is a grappling hook on a cooldown. And there's already a lot of verticality and a lot of easy movement in the game. Unless you're the heavy class, you just move a little bit slower. But the way that you can maneuver around in conjunction with using the grappling hook, the little zip lines, if your friend is a medium class, they can throw out a jump pad, and you can zip across the map like you're Spider-Man. And like the grappling hook refreshes pretty fast. So I've been able to get in, steal the vault from someone, jump all the way across the map, completely skipping. Here, pro tip, folks. Don't go to the closest cache and vault. Go to the furthest one away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're a zippy boy, that's easy.
If you're a zippy boy, it's so easy. And then the foam grenades, it's like, what is it, Prey, right?
The Prey remake or the new Prey had the foam gun.
Yeah. Eat, Pray, Love. And then just smother that bitch in foam and get the homies to do it. Just like, just keep pinging foam.
It's smart.
It's smart, and then you surround the vault, and you're protected for a little bit. But the best part about the finals is the destruction.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Like, Backlar, you said it best during that video, but it feels like Red Faction Guerrilla.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Okay, I was already very interested in everything you were saying, and now I'm downloading it immediately after.
Dan, the heavy class has a sledgehammer and an ability where you just hit Q and you just Kool-Aid Man through walls.
Yeah, you tackle through the wall, and it blows up in front of you.
Okay, I'm going to play this.
Like, little spoiler, it found its way into my top 10. Like,
cool.
I've been playing this game nonstop. Like, it's the only thing I'm really playing the last 3 days or so. It's really, really good. It's like, I think the amazing thing about this game is that it like has on paper, this should be the most cringy, like annoying casino vomit, like weird thing. And it's just not. It is a highly precise, really finely tuned first-person shooter traversal game that's like feels so good to play. Yeah. It is exceptional.
You know what it feels like? It's from Embark Studios, which is what I was going to get at here. It's Embark, which is former DICE people. A bunch of people who left DICE, including one of the founders of DICE, and I can never remember his name, but he was like the big guy that went from DICE to being at EA, and he was the guy at EA. He's like, everyone's going to use Frostbite. Everyone's going to use the DICE engine. And then he left and he made a game in Unreal Engine. But it feels like, what if DICE had the freedom to take all the stuff they're good at, destruction, cool modes, and make a new game without any of the baggage of having to make Battlefield, this is the game they would make. I think it's totally like learning from like, hey, Battlefield did destruction very well for a very long time. And now that feels kind of like, yeah, that's something that happens in those games, but it's not what you come to those games for. I mean, I'm sure some people still do, but it's not like it is in the finals where it's like, it's core to the experience and every moment something's blowing apart. And they specifically make the maps so that the vault is up in a thing hanging in the sky. And all you could think about is, I'm going to shoot my rocket propelled grenade at that thing and make it fall to the ground.
How do I bring it down?
That's all I want to do in this world right now.
Yeah.
And then it works and it falls right in front of you and people are scrambling. It's so much fun. And like starting to think about how those classes work together, where I was playing as the heavy class a lot. I did end up liking the light class and be able to zip around, but thinking like, okay, if we are going to be a team, if I am the heavy, I can use my tackle and my sledgehammer strategically so that I can make holes for the people who are faster so they can get through these walls. And if like we start pairing that stuff up together, it's like, oh man, that teamwork could be huge. And it's a lot of fun to think about.
Quick question real quick. So when I hear 3-on-3, my only concern here is like, if I'm someone who like never puts on a headset, never plays online multiplayer, like voice chat, I don't want to like get a bunch of people to like, if I'm a solo, like when I play Fortnite, I only do solo. Is it good if I'm with two randos and not talking to them?
Yeah, I've found
a
lot of success just randomly matching up with folks.
I mean, the objective is very clear. Like you're all working towards that. I mean, I think you're better off talking with friends. Right? I think you'll. That's true of any team-based sort of multiplayer game. But it's completely capable going solo for sure.
I mean,
I like doing it
for sure.
I like doing it with you. It's easier in our context where it's like, okay, we've got our like work days and we do this, do shows and stuff. So like, I like doing it in that context. Yeah. It's just a pain in the ass doing it. Like everyone's got weird schedules and like doing it at night and trying to get people together. But like, I would love to do it on a show here.
Yeah, let's play. We will play it again for sure.
Play it again for sure.
Yeah.
The best part of this thing is like at least 2 or 3 times a match, the thought crosses my mind of like, I wonder what's going to happen if I do that.
Yeah.
And that's really special. There, it's everything feels over the top, but not too over the top. I think there's just like a really good balance in
I think you said it. Like at the things you say, I want to try that, and things work how you expect. Like, I did have my RPG out, and someone was about to capture the vault, and it was on the floor right above me. And so I just like, I'm not going to be able to get there. So I'm climbing up these stairs. I'm like, okay, it's like 4 flights. I get to the 3rd flight and I see the meters about to hit it. So I just hit the ground where I think the vault is with the RPG. I take a little bit of damage, but mostly the floor just evaporates in front of me and the vault falls right in front of me. I was able, like they unlocked it. So the chest is right there and I just take it and I start running. I mean, they killed me, but the whole like concept of like having this idea, being able to execute it, having the game like have results that like work the way you expect them to work, all that stuff is very well done.
Dan, the other great thing is that there are a bunch of barrels, miscellaneous barrels like smoke barrels, poison gas, flame, foam, and just explosion barrels that you can psyops pick up at any point and just launch.
Yeah.
You keep saying things that like, I was sold when you first started talking about this, and then you've said like 8 other things I want to do.
And maybe this is like very throwaway, but there's something that really agrees with me, the fact that like it's all just like a virtual kind of thing. Like,
oh sure,
you're not killing anyone. You're sort of like in this virtual reality arena, and that's where this
and they make it
canonically takes place. And there's no like over the top blood or like you
explode into coins when you die.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Like, wait, Jeff. Like in like other games too. That's also like Call of Duty's virtual 100%. Like, that, right?
No, a real man dies every time someone dies in Call of Duty.
Jeff, I hope you're not like putting guilt on yourself every time you play Call of Duty or Battlefield. Like they're not dying for sure.
He plays Call of Duty the most.
Yeah, you haven't killed anyone as far as I know. Yeah.
As far as I know, but you can never be too sure. It looks very realistic. No, I say this, the second half of the thing that I didn't say is it is because I'm like going back and forth of like showing my kid this, right? Sure. And like that's what it comes down to. And I do think like it could maybe be a good entry point into that. I guess Fortnite is like another thing, but and I also think what's really cool about the finals is that it's very early, right, in this game's existence. I know it was in alpha and beta for a little bit, but now I'm starting to see like, oh, they're gonna hopefully introduce a lot newer modes and like ideas into this thing. And I'm very excited to see this grow.
I mean, the second mode was pretty fun too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But you know, they're going to like, possibly there's new like, specials that come in or whatever it is. I just think the runway is really long for this game, and that's exciting.
There's
which is a fun way to think about it.
A handful of levels, but there's variations of the levels in terms of times of day, the weather as well. And I thought it was kind of whack at first that there were only the 3 classes, but then just depending on how you spec out your person, it really modifies it significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the medium class can just be your all around like Mario all arounder type of dude. It can also be a healer, or you could kind of play like an engineer in Team Fortress where you have a turret coming out. And then the light class I thought was very akin to Scout in, not my dog, but in Team Fortress 2. But because of the mobility, you can also play as like a spy because you have like backstabbing weapons, or you can go invisible if you choose a different ability, or you could be a sniper because you have that verticality and you can reach places faster than other folks. The other really neat thing is how you revive people. When you die and you explode into like a small little action figure type of guy. You can grab those, throw them somewhere safe, and then just hide and revive someone on the spot.
Which is it's just so smart.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
You know?
It just adds to like the pace of it.
Yeah.
And when you're dead, you can either wait to respawn or you can request to be revived by teammates. And like I found that to be like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just request a revive so you get me now, so we're all closer to the objective rather than me being way further away.
I think there's a couple things that'll also be finessed too. I think like there, some of the, especially that popular the main mode that we were playing where you are just kind of looking to, a big strat is to like just steal the cash out, right? Like that is kind of what this game turns into, where like it doesn't necessarily matter if you're the one to initiate the cash out. It's, are you the last one standing when the timer's up? And I do think like people are learning new strategies to like protect, and ultimately like you are in a better position to win if you do initiate the cash out and sort of have a strategy to do how to defend it. But yeah, I'm curious to see like how they tweak that stuff. Like it makes sense to approach it a different way. Like, I was just thinking like, oh, maybe, there's like, just like random generative stuff you can put in there that changes the way people think about playing the game, and it'll cause newer strategies to form and evolve. And it's fun.
Another pro tip, there's just these giant cubes filled with stuff suspended in the arenas. Just shoot those down because they contain like the little gas canisters or like the little throwable items. I was in a game last night, Bacalar, speaking of like different strategies developing, where it was me and 2 other people playing as the light class, all had grappling hooks, and we just hot potatoed the vault to each other across the whole map, and it was absolutely insane. And I felt like the raptors in Jurassic Park, just quickly running around and killing dudes. It was great. It was great. Speaking about games that are growing, Lethal Company is something that Jeff Grubb and I played on the website, along with Timur and Turbo Sean.
That's a fun time, is how I'll phrase it. We never actually accomplished our goal, which was a very modest quota of the game it's 4 players, cooperative. You go out in the world, you collect junk, you bring it back. Chances are some crazy stuff's going to happen. You're going to see a monster, a giant spider. You can fall into a pit. It's going to be dark. There's going to be dangers, and you got to work together to bring that stuff back to your ship in 3 days. And on the 4th day, you have to fly to the store, sell everything you got, and if you meet the quota, then you can keep going. And you could buy more stuff to make it easier, like a shovel or whatever. We were figuring a lot of this stuff out on the fly, but that process of not really understanding what it is, going in blind, and having moments just happen. It was really a good time, because we like Jan would be going ahead. He would go a slightly different direction, and he would turn around and he would hear all our voices fading, and suddenly we were just dead. And he had no idea what happened. He turned around like, what's going on here? And eventually he would piece it together. And I'm going to talk around some of these things because I think we should all play this together. And you guys, Bacalar, Dan, have you guys looked into this at all?
I haven't seen it. I've just heard people talking very glowingly about it. But yeah, like I'll be going in pretty damn blind just knowing that people are liking it a lot.
Right. Yeah, so I think the idea would be to like use the mod so we can get a draw all of us in, as many of us as possible, and we'll see if we can make that happen. But it is just an emergent gameplay situation generator where it's like, hey, let's go in and try this. Is that going to work? Let's try to jump across there. And you can stand on the grate watching your friend try to make that jump. And sometimes they make it and sometimes they don't. And it's always funny. Though the animations are really simple but expressive, especially the running. So it's like just when yes, the high knees. So when everyone's panicking and running and everyone's actually scared of something, it's still like a really hilarious thing to see all these goofballs just doing this high knee run back to the ship and freaking out. The best part is that it is all local voice,
proximity, and
proximity. Yes,
like
proximity voice
thing.
Yeah.
Yes, and so and then the voice modulates depending on the environment you're in. So if you're in a metal environment, it's echoing off the walls and it changes, and that sounds really great. And so if you're like getting further away from everyone else, it's like you can hear that, and then at a certain point you can't hear anyone anymore unless you buy a walkie-talkie, and that really adds to the atmosphere and to the hilarity again, where it's like, okay, they thought I was dead, and then suddenly I come back around the corner like, hi ho Silver, and it's like, we're back together, and these really fun moments. I don't know how much more there is to the experience, but I'm at a point where it's like, I don't really care, because like you could tell we're going to be having a lot of fun playing this and like seeing how far we can get. And I bet there are more experiences and moments that we haven't encountered yet that are waiting for us. We just happen to find a couple on the random planets that we landed on so far.
Yeah, this is a single dev as well, right, Grub?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, that's what I've heard. It's one dude, one person.
Wow,
insane.
And it's hugely popular. It's I think it's still the most played game on Steam. It's one of the best selling games of the year. It's huge.
Speaking about another huge game, Dan, I see that you have put Among Us DLC here.
Oh, I guess I probably should have put Vampire Survivors Among Us DLC.
Oh.
Yeah. I haven't played Among Us in forever. It's anytime there's Vampire Survivors DLC, I load it up. And this is now the third time I've started a completely new file of Vampire Survivors because I'm playing on a different account. And it's like, at first I was like, oh man, I don't have my save. And then I was like, wait, that's an excuse to play Vampire Survivors again. So yeah, like all last night I was just playing. I unlocked the Among Us stuff. It's, any new Vampire Survivors is always fun for me. I'll say that I never liked the look of Among Us. And so
you don't like the little jelly beans?
Nah, and like you're playing as them and unlocking them, and you're kind of playing on those maps and everything. And like it's always fun to see like what the weapon evolutions are and stuff like that. But it's all very much like, oh, here's the one where it's like the wires from Among Us are stretching across the screen and killing enemies and stuff. And I don't love the look of it. I do love the look of the original Vampire Survivor. It's just kind of that like vaguely Castlevania pixel art going on. This one, it's all very Among Us, obviously, and at this point, I think we got to be reaching the upper limits of like weapon evolution things that take up the whole screen. Like there's some clever ones where it's like, okay, this evolution will make it so there's a bunch of like a keypad on the ground and you got to press the keys in order like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that summons like a rocket at the top of the screen that like shoots down a bunch of flames and stuff on the enemies. Like there's some pretty clever ones that work with the Among Us theme, but they're all kind of just big bullshit that kills everything on the screen.
Right.
It's every weapon evolution. It's its own like siloed off thing. It's the Adventures tab is like some of the most recent DLC.
Okay, so it's not like you're not going to have Among Us in the core Vampire Survivors experience?
From what I've seen, I just played the core until it unlocked this Adventures thing. And then the Adventures thing is like, oh, here's the legacy of the Moonspell or whatever. Okay, and cool. Among Us with like its own power-ups or with its own like currency and things like that exist in that siloed off thing. So I don't know. It's an excuse to play more Vampire Survivors. It got me back into that, which is like the ideal. Like I just put on Raw last night and just played it all night, and it's a good time.
It was also a good Raw. I was pleasantly surprised.
Man, the last couple of weeks, I rarely sit down and watch an entire Raw live. I'll just like watch a match if I heard it was really good. I watched both the last Raws and I was like, wait a minute. All these stories like have places they're going and there's like multiple over baby faces and like this the Drew promo was really good last night and it's like what the fuck? It's actually getting like to be a pretty good wrestling show.
Yes, it had to happen.
Yeah, the punk stuff is good. The Punk Rollins stuff is fascinating. Like, man, what the hell?
R-Truth just proving.
The R-Truth stuff's hilarious.
Oh
yes.
My god. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would love R-Truth.
It's like scary that it's just like a good show. It's a 3-hour-long Raw that I'm like, man, all this
seems
seems
to
to
be...
be...
with me? Is what I started.
Am I sick? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the
new
shoe to
meds?
drop. I'm like, what's happening? I don't know.
Just did like a pie chart of like all the time I have in my day, and like there's just no sliver for Raw. Like there's just not.
You got to spare 3 hours in the evening.
Come on.
There's just not.
If I send you a series of gifts, will that help?
That's
No,
a fine way to consume wrestling.
Yeah, like if I could just have a GIF-based sort of like consumption of that medium, I'd be happy. You know, let me just do that. In fact, I encourage you to do that. I would like to consume wrestling only in GIF form for the rest of my life.
Well,
Very giftable, industry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Even the promos you can get gift. It's great.
Sure.
Dan, you also put here House Flipper 2.
Yeah, I never played that before. I think I was on a quick look that like Abby did back in the day, and I was like, oh, that was cool, but I never played it. So I'm playing this now, and like it's immediately kind of that scratching that power wash itch, where it's like you go into a new area, and it's just like, oh man, this place is fucked up. Like there's just trash everywhere, and pizza boxes, and there's like graffiti all over, and windows are like everything's fucked up. And then by the time you're done, it's looking great. And this is just like Power Wash Simulator if it was power washing and then a bunch of other stuff. So like I love like getting my process together where I go into a fucked up house, and at first I'm like, okay, all the trash, all the like, just food boxes and just shit on the floor and broken glass and broken vases. I'm cleaning all that shit up, put it in the garbage, and then there's stains everywhere. And so I'm going around, I'm spraying everything, I'm wiping everything down with my cloth. The ceilings, there's fucking gross stains everywhere. I'm getting all that figured out. And then, there's a bunch of just bullshit that you're selling because you're flipping these houses. So you have like a flipper tool. And so you go and it's like, all these shitty old chairs, all this stuff. Yeah, selling that, get rid of these cabinets, all that shit. And then you see like what you're supposed to buy to put in there. It's like, okay, now I can reorganize this room however I want. I got rid of this dividing wall. I'm going to put this couch over here. Like it's scratching a lot of itches between like almost like sim game, like more like the ones where you're actually like designing a house or like when you're building a place in Minecraft or something. Plus it's got the cleaning element of like a power wash. I'm also learning that I think I have no fucking skills whatsoever at like design, like interior design. Cause like I'll get into the place where everything's clean. It's like, all right, now what am I going to do with the wallpaper and the tiles and stuff here? And I'm like, all right, this like geometric white and blue wallpaper looks good. I'll put that up there, and I'll get these like hexagon tiles and put them here, and this for the floor. And then I sit back and like, even me with no eye for aesthetics or anything, I'm just like, oh, this looks like shit. Like if I walked into this house, I'd be like, this place fucking sucks. So once it opened up and it lets you kind of do whatever you want aesthetically, I just realized like I need people to tell me like, okay, yeah, put wood down here and then like stone up here, because if left to my own devices, it's just gonna look like garbage.
But your basement is really nice, Dan. The way you've organized it, is that because it's all like memorabilia and stuff that you have an affinity for? If you weren't allowed to put like any gaming stuff in her room, do you think that's where you would struggle?
That's a cheat code. I mean, if I'm just like setting up a fun game room, I know how to do that. Like, oh, here's a bunch of cool shit I like. Like, here's how I want to display these NES games. Arcade goes over there. Like, that's like almost like cheating. It's just like, how is that room not going to be cool? It's just a bunch of video game stuff. Versus like, if I had to go into a room and just be like, get some nice couches and wallpaper, I would just leave.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be the same way for sure.
Yeah, but a game room, I can put together a game room for sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's always been. I like games like Animal Crossing, Disney Illusion Island. I mean, I like that game for other reasons, but when it comes to the interior decorating aspect, I'm just absolute garbo of like, I like that table. These chairs don't match, but I have enough money for these chairs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it's like. I'm like, oh, all this stuff costs money, and I'm going to be bad at this, so I'm going to make a mistake. So I sort of just freeze instead of like, oh, I'm afraid of wasting money on chairs that won't match. So
yes.
I avoid it.
I'm a very function over aesthetics guy.
Yeah, I need to just be that way.
Yeah, maybe we should just have benches everywhere, huh? You just slide into a bench and you just leave a bench.
I would be happy to have a bench sort of area, like just a picnic table as our table for the family room. I'd like that.
Got a big beanbag out there. That's nice.
The big beanbag is that's where I live.
What's the etiquette with a beanbag when you got to fluff it? Do you just turn it over, and do you worry about the bottom side?
I do a couple like rolls. You just like, get it up on one side. It's not normally on. Kind of roll it around a couple times in its space and put it back down. It'll be nice and fluffed up.
Jeff Grabbit, look, you guffawed for a second. Is there something about beanbag etiquette?
Other kind of fluffing, so I was going to say cup the balls. That's what you're supposed to do.
Wow.
Goodness gracious.
I agree. Hey. I'm a bad boy. I know. Listen, I stopped myself, and then you asked. I was going to let it go.
No, I was curious.
As if jerking off cardboard cutouts wasn't enough. Now we're
I don't know what you're
fluffing
talking about.
beanbags.
I have no idea what you're. I was just gesturing to my friend.
He's just hosting a television show.
Just hosting a show.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was part of the feedback. Grub. We got to talk about.
I even heard that in a meeting. All good things. All good things. All good things.
All good things. Well, wonderful.
All good things. All good things.
All good things. Another good thing that has circled back around. Turns out God of War Ragnarok's really great. What if we turned it into a roguelike with God of War Valhalla?
What
percent
tell
of
me
it is
about
gameplay?
gameplay?
What
Yeah,
like
what percent
what
is
is
gameplay?
like? I know what this is, but I don't know what it is. So just tell me,
Yo.
and I'll get around to it sometime next year.
Yo, hey, you ever want to like go play God of War, but you don't want the story and like him talking
Yes.
to his kid and like
Yes, that's all I want.
Dan? Do you
Yes.
like Hades?
Yes.
Did you like playing 2018 God of War and Ragnarok? Playing it.
Yes.
What if you just had Hades and God of War?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
what it is.
what this is.
Okay, I would like to play that.
So
then.
It's
you
not
don't
as good as Hades. but
not
it's
as good as
close.
Hades, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that fighting system was always really good, even though I didn't like Ragnarok. Like,
Absolutely
I would love to
fantastic.
just do the fighting system.
What if you had everything unlocked and had all the weapons right from the get-go?
You have the weapons. You don't have. They're not fully powered up. You're gonna.
sure.
It's a roguelite, so you're gonna
Okay.
lose some of that stuff. But
Yes.
yes.
All this sounds good. Yes.
So that's basically all it is. It's a separate menu item. You just launch into Valhalla, quick download. There's a little bit of story bits at the
So
top.
it does take place after the story of Ragnarok.
Yes.
But I didn't play through Ragnarok, and everyone's like, you're going to be so lost. There's going to be spoilers, and that just doesn't matter at all. It's a bunch of people being like, "Oh, you're in there, you're fighting these things because you're Kratos. That's wild, man." I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty wild. I'm going to go back in there now," and that's it. So,
okay.
yeah, and it does do the Hades style storytelling where, okay, you went through a run, you died. And probably pretty quickly on that first run. Seems like they kind of put you up against stuff that's pretty tough right away.
Mhm.
You come back out and they're like, okay, now here's a new little quick cutscene that's going to move the story forward, but it doesn't really get in the way that I felt like the storytelling in some of these other PlayStation games can. This is a really good idea. I'm a huge fan of this trend, by the way, of just taking a game, turning it into a roguelite, especially as an update that comes a year or like 2 or 3 years later. This is fantastic. I'm a big fan of this.
It's cool.
I realized, oh shit, Ragnarok looks amazing.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's one of the best looking games on the PS5. And then
Totally.
Backlar, I think we had this conversation where it's tough to want to revisit God of War specifically because you just don't want to replay all the story bits just because you've gone through it already. But going through everything and is Jeff gone?
No, I see you. I'm here.
Oh, you
Oh,
froze.
you just froze for a second.
Oh, weird.
But in Valhalla, just being able to rinse through these enemies and then, like in a roguelike, have to quickly adapt your style of gameplay and then deciding of like, okay, I normally rock with the Blades of Chaos, but like this run, we're just doing Spear.
And they give you different bonuses, so it encourages
Yes.
that variety of play. So it's like your first room, you're going to get a couple of options. Do you want to do something with your Blades of Chaos, or do you want to do something with the axe? And then as you do that, that's going to influence all of the upgrades that show up in the world after that. So it's like, okay, this is going to be mostly an axe run. You can still switch your weapons and make some decisions that might change things up later during that run. But it does a good job of making each run feel different than the last, which is something I think even Returnal struggled with, which to me, that felt very samey from run to run. So I'm like, this is actually in some ways more impressive than Returnal.
It's really smart too, because you will have run to run upgrades that you're unlocking for your specific runs. And then when you get to a checkpoint, which is after a couple rooms, you can suspend the game and be like, all right, I'm gonna come back later. If you wanted to, I guess, check out the other parts of Ragnarok. But there's also general upgrades for Kratos across the board. So you can increase your rage meter, increase your health, all your different stats like strength, vitality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's real fun. And I just love that mostly everything is unlocked. You're not super powered up like Grub said, but like also when you're starting each run, you choose between like your shield and your different rage ability.
And those also have bonuses each time. So it's like, okay, I've never used this shield before. It has the bonus this time. I'll just use that. And now that means I'll get more benefit in the long run where I'm upgrading the character longer term so that the next run is even easier.
Yeah, and then it's all that way you're encouraging different play styles of like, okay, I never would have checked this out if I wasn't incentivized to do it this way. And then there's quiet moments in between where, they'll sprinkle in a little bit of story, a little bit of roaming around, but it's...
And the people that do like the story have been saying that they like this stuff still. So it's not like a completely devoid of the things that people do like about Core Ragnarok. It's just, this is much more the style of game that I'm into these days. And so I'm greatly appreciative that this is here as an option.
Totally wild that this is a free update as well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
totally.
Yeah, and then the way that they're framing you being in these different parts that you've visited in both games, it's like, oh, well, this is Valhalla pulling the memories out of Kratos, so this is why you kind of remember it like this, or this is why it's condensed, but you've been here before, you've fought these guys before. And Mimir's around. Mimir's not, like, too talky, and, God, it's just so good. It's so good.
I played it on my Steam Deck using the Chiaki app, Chiaki 4 Deck.
You gotta show me how to do that.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It's super easy now. There's just a couple of steps that are weird about getting your PSN, the code for PSN, which is something you just got to go to a website to do. So the first time I tried to set up Chiaki 4 Deck on my original Steam Deck, something went wrong. It didn't work. I gave up. That's why I've been considering a PlayStation Portal, the new PSP, for a while now. I'll just get that. But then Chiaki 4 Deck updated, and now it supports HDR on the Steam Deck OLED. So I was like, okay, I should just try that first and see how that works. Maybe I can get it working this time. It was super easy. I just went through a couple of steps, and again, I'll show you that, Jan. And it just started working. I was able to turn on my PlayStation 5 remotely from upstairs, and I went over there, updated God of War, and started playing it, and the HDR just worked. And that's the best thing about the Steam Deck OLED, actually, is how well the HDR works compared to a PC, where it's such a crapshoot, and Windows is terrible at that stuff. Here, it's like, if HDR is going to work, it'll just turn on. It's going to work, and that's how it happened here. And it looked great. It ran fantastic. I was going over my my 6 gigahertz connection, which is really great for all this wireless gaming stuff now. That's how I've been using the MetaQuest 3 and Steam, is with the 6 gigahertz connection. It's flawless. There was never even stuttering like I've had before with it. So it's like things are getting to a point where these things can work. And now it's like my preferred way to be playing PlayStation 5 games. So I would not have had time to check in with Valhalla. That's just the way it fits in with my life. Sitting down here by myself on the couch while people are upstairs, the guilt is too much. I just feel like I'm disconnected from everybody. So being able to sit around them on the Steam Deck and fit it in here and there in fits and spurts, like fits and starts, like it worked really well that way. So really impressive. It's super easy to set up these days.
I faced a moral conflict when I fired up Valhalla. And it's been a minute since I've played Ragnarok. I don't think I've touched it since last year. And I immediately hit square to melee. But then I've remembered, it's on the bumpers and the triggers.
They Dark Souled it. Yeah.
They Dark Souled it. And I got to ask y'all, where do you land on the preferred melee button placement?
I've come around on it. It's because I like keeping my thumbs on the sticks. So I think this is pretty good these days. It took me a while. I do in my heart, square is still melee. And then triangle is going to be the heavy attack. In my heart, that's the way it is. But once I get it takes 30 seconds. I'm like, okay, it's up here on the bumpers and the shoulder button. I'm used to it now. I'll just keep my thumbs on the sticks, and now I can look around and attack at the same time. In this game, they always have someone running up behind you, so it's important to be on a swivel. So I do like it. It's probably actually the right way to do things.
I don't dislike it at all. I like, Armored Core and Elden Ring and the way From has kind of done it. But I am old, so I do like it when things are like they were on the PlayStation 2. So
as long as you can admit that.
X jump, square, slice, triangle heavy, circle grab. Yeah. That's my thing.
Like block being on the bumper though. That feels like a good place for it.
L1's a good
L1.
block button. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Def Jam Fight for New York introduced that into my life. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is the only place it can be now.
Technically, the wrestling games they made on 64 before that did that.
All right, pipe down.
In a video that's going to come out next week, I learned that I've committed crimes holding N64 controller the way I've held it my whole life.
Oh, I don't want to see a picture of that.
Yeah,
can we not talk about that?
It's not good. It's not good.
This was also covered in the meeting, I'm assuming, discussing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
Positive.
Yes, we had a big conversation about this.
Yeah, oh, God. Well,
you'll get the breakdown, yep.
There's one more game listed here, and might as well call it the game of the week, because why not?
Why not?
Why not? Suika Game.
Yeah.
Dan,
yes.
I've heard this is taking...
discover this?
I heard this is taking over your life.
Playing it? Yeah, like a week ago. And yeah, I downloaded it. It's what, $3?
Yep.
I know there's a bunch of clones, and then there's a browser one. I tried that. The physics are all wonky. No, you got to go with the Switch one.
Physics have to be right.
The browser physics
are
are garbage.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like when you start playing it, it seems like it's like, okay, well, this is like the simplest puzzle game ever. You get it within like 30 seconds. You're like, okay, I feel like you're gonna reach a certain point where it's like, get it, can't really get much past that. But as you play it a few hundred times, you start to realize that like, okay, the physics of this, and like, you know, there is a strategy that like I find myself getting better. Like I'm now like in the like mid 3000s on the score, which at first it was like, you know, 2000 was kind of like as high as I could get. And it's because now I know it's like, okay, I've got these big ones over here. I'm gonna try to keep the small ones over here. You know how to kind of lay things together where it's like when they do start bouncing around, like some are gonna get through the cracks and form together. You start knowing how to avoid things popping out if it starts getting too high. For those who haven't played it, it seems like everyone's playing it, so I don't know if I'm just preaching to the choir here, but you're just putting fruits together, put a couple cherries together, turns into a strawberry, a couple strawberries together, turns into grapes, a couple grapes turns into some weird.
That's how God made it.
Can you just say that fast like that?
Physics.
Dude, that was like, I just heard like a Southern auctioneer voice come out of you for a second with fruit. You were like, 2 fruits.
Kansas fought for the North.
Yeah,
never been a
awesome.
Southerner, but yeah. No, it's just, it's I've heard it described as like, you know, a Tetris puzzler, you know, meets threes with physics, and that's what got me to download it. And
it's fun.
Accurate description, and it's very, very fun. It's simple. It's $3. Yeah, get the Switch version.
How juicy is it in terms of like actual literal fruit juice, like spurting out of these fruits?
No, not a lot.
I wish it was juicier.
Really.
I wish it was much juicier.
Like a fruit ninja juice?
Dry.
Yeah.
No, there's no real juice. They're just kind of like smiling. They have faces.
They don't really, I'll be honest, I don't even consider them fruit. They just are like
they're
marbles
objectively
to me.
fruit.
No, I realize
like JPEGs.
Yeah, they're just sort of marbles. Like they could be more fruits. Look, I call it like I see it.
No, I was
faces
saying
that just smile, and then if one pops out, they go like, ugh, like that's about it.
I was saying Grub saying something is just a JPEG. I'm like, wow, I've never heard something more derogatory.
JPEG.
My favorite David Lee Ross song, just a JPEG.
Oh, we're making new slurs.
Let's go.
God, this is gonna hurt my political career in a couple of years, man. I'm just fucking boning myself so hard.
You're still gonna be mayor, Jan. Come on.
We found some deeply troubling podcasts.
Wow, it wasn't
Mr.
even
Ochoa calling people JPEGs, as we all know, is now.
These are dirty JPEG 2000. No one fucking uses that shit.
JPEG 2000. I used one once. I opened a portal to another dimension in my family room.
I don't even know how to open that.
I don't even. I'm so scared of
Who uses? What is the practical use for a JPEG 2000?
I don't think there actually is one anymore.
Why
it's
do we
just
still
like
support
legacy
it?
support?
Yeah, it's the future of JPEGs. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
That is it for games. Unless anyone else has anything they want to chat about, real quick.
I want to play that Asgard's Wrath 2.
Me too.
For MetaQuest 3. It got a 10 from IGN.
What?
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
A 10.
I got a 10.
A VR 10.
A 10 out of 10.
Well, I mean, like, what else is
VR?
a 10 out of 10 on VR? What is it, like Alex,
VR.
right?
Yeah, Alex and Astrobot.
Definitely the best. Yeah.
Right. So it's like this has got to be as good or at least as impressive as Alex, right? So I'm gonna try this out and we'll see.
Is a VR? Yeah, like what's the scale? Is a VR 10? What does that translate to? What is that?
Oh my God!
Like 6. Yeah.
I mean, if Alex,
are you a
Alex
Miami 10 or a VR 10? You know?
Oh, I get what we're doing.
Yeah, come on, play along.
Alex is unfair because like Alex is like legitimately like a great game. If you take Alex out of the equation, what is the like next like VR 10?
Astrobot.
A good one. It's a really good one. Yeah, there's a couple really good ones, I guess.
Yeah, I'm interested, and I'll say I am using my MetaQuest 3 still almost every night.
Wow.
The big thing is I started streaming Star Wars Jedi Survivor into it. Not as a VR game. It's not a VR game. It just makes a big HD screen, so I could just like, okay, I'm like tired. I don't want to go set up the family room and play games in there. I'll just stream it in bed and have the screen be up here and like kick back and have the controller connected to the PC. And I played a bunch. I played
What a great way to turn your brain off before a night of restful sleep.
having bright pixels shot directly into my eye veins.
Christ.
Yes. Oh,
I think
I've been sleeping great. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't even want a phone screen in my bedroom, much less
exactly.
in my eyeballs.
Stapled to my retinas. Listen, I think we all just need to hear this every now and then. I know I'm surely not the first person to suggest this. I just want to put this out there.
He's going to tell us to
the
touch grass.
The film Wall-E was a warning.
Oh, I
not
feel exactly like those dudes. I literally, I'm like laying in my beanbag is actually what I'm doing. So my body is like floating in midair, and I'm just like, I feel exactly like one of those big human babies. So yes,
I'll say it again. Wall-E was a warning, not a suggestion.
You mean ambition? It was an ambition that we should be reaching towards.
This wasn't a goal to aim for. This was,
I'm there.
Human future bad. No, do this.
I'm going to say this was something slightly naughty that I did. Don't think naughty like that in VR, you dirty JPEGs. Okay, so I pulled a grub, right? I pulled a grub. He said he was laying in bed with a VR helmet. I'm like, oh, I'll try that out. Threw on the VR helmet, and then I was like, oh, you know what? What if I fall asleep? So I put on my CPAP machine.
Oh my god!
And then I just watched 2 hours of Alita Battle Angel in 3D.
This fucking rules. I didn't know you had your CPAP machine on, Jan. You are living in the year 3000. This is the next step of human evolution. We are witnessing it.
Yo, you must have looked
that was
like
in 3D.
Some cyberpunk fucking abomination. Someone took a photo.
That was the best way to see a 3D movie. It was great.
it actually is a great way to watch 3D movies.
Quill the CPAP with like dental nitrous and then do that.
Oh shit!
Did you have like neon
tinctures and elixirs inside your CPAP? Yeah,
I've thought about that.
Is the Meta Quest is that like what's still the most powerful VR out there?
This is
what are you talking about, tethered or wireless? Yeah, there's a difference.
I just want to know the most powerful one out there.
The one you can connect to a computer because your
computer's the most powerful.
What you can do with the Meta Quest, like the Meta Quest
platform? Like what? So we've established it obviously has to be hooked up to your computer for the most powerful VR.
Okay, but in that case, Meta Quest 3 with the wireless over the 6 gigahertz has been fantastic. It's been so good.
And if you have trouble with that connection, you can always do the direct link cable thing. So, like, honestly, the Meta Quest 3 is, without a doubt, the best I've used.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get better resolution in a few other very expensive headsets, but...
Like what?
I feel like I haven't taken... It's good enough for me. We are at a point where it's like, everything is good enough. The tracking's good enough. The software to understand... Yeah, there's a beanbag in the area that I marked off. But let's just be chill about that. Let me fucking lay in the beanbag and keep everything working, and it just keeps working. And then the resolution is strong enough so you don't get the screen door effect, so you can actually watch an HD movie or play a game, and it's not going to be distracting. The one problem is in Star Wars, and I think this happens in any game that you're playing, at least in Steam Link, if the pointer turns off, it goes into sleep mode. It turns your headset into the mouse cursor. So when I move around now, the mouse is like looking around and it's like very distracting. So I have to like kind of turn that off every little bit. And apparently there's no solution for that. So there's still some caveats, but if you're looking to get into VR right now, I really do recommend the Meta Quest 3. It's very good.
Yeah.
People really seem to like, they're hot on this big screen.
Oh yeah.
That's what we were using.
That's how I stumbled onto Alita Battle Angel. There's also people can host public rooms. And don't accidentally walk into the public rooms.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if you want to,
there.
Because
I caught the last 30 minutes of Leave the World Behind, that new Julia Roberts movie on Netflix. I went into one of those rooms and that was there. And I'm just like, I had no idea what this movie was, but I got an Ethan Hawke vibe. I'm like, I think Ethan Hawke's going to be in the next scene. And then he wasn't. But he was in the scene after that. What the fuck?
Yo,
what's going on?
Is Bigscreen an app or is this a feature
of VR?
Okay,
I thought you meant the hardware.
No. Bigscreen VR is an app you can get through all the VR.
Oh, okay, because there is a VR headset called Bigscreen.
Oh, they probably make. I think they make their own, right? Okay.
Yeah, they make their own hardware.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I saw them talking about that in the app. When you load up the app, they have a thing. But yeah, it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, my only the only delta I'd say is when you're in a scout. I swear to God, if you're in a dimly lit room and you're trying to use the hand tracking to point to stuff, you occasionally will click on accidental rooms that you don't mean to walk into, and then some questionable audio pops up, and then you suddenly accidentally start watching something with a bunch of other people in VR.
To everyone else in the room, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to panically rip off the VR helmet and then your CPAP machine,
and go confess in church.
Yeah. Well, I mean the church part. That's up to
Virtual
your discretion.
confession,
though.
Yeah, virtual church.
Yeah. You go to a different app to launch Verge.
Yo, I'm sorry, but we could, if Verge.org is if it's not a thing, we need to get into
what's
that
the name
biz.
of this episode? Verge or Dirty JPEGs?
Ah, God.
Dirty JPEGs is pretty good.
Verge.org for me is like, I think how we're going to raise our...
Alex Buniello, if you're still listening to the podcast, can you do a cover of Hozier's Take Me to Church, but instead of Take Me to Church, just go Take Me to Verge, please.
There it is.
Take Me
That's
to
our
Verge.
theme song.
Did he text you too during this podcast? Because
he also texted me, and now I feel offended.
Alex, what are you doing? You text everyone when we do the podcast. What is happening?
Why don't you just make a group chat, Alex?
Yeah, get into
it'll
the
save
Discord.
time. You're in this Discord, Alex. Anyway,
you know what he wrote me? He's like, I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to share that information. I had a second thought. No, never mind.
He just sent me a string of numbers. That was mildly disconcerting. Anyway, we're going to go take a quick bricky break, and we'll be back with some video game news.
Fuck you.
No one knows what is real anymore. No one knows what is fake. That was a fantastic demonstration of the abdominal muscles, Dan Reichert.
Thank you.
Chef Grubb, it's time for the news. This is the news for the show. Virch.
Yeah, we got welcome to Virch. Let us pray on a lot of news here. Mostly this Insomniac hack.
Oh my God.
Hack.
What happened?
They got fucking hacked to hell.
Oh my God.
I mean, so a ransomware group previously threatened PlayStation's Insomniac games. They claim to have a lot of material. They proved that, and then they said they were going to either put it out publicly or auction it off. This is a crime.
Holy shit.
A lot of crimes happened here. They apparently they're hinting that they did actually end up auctioning off 2% of the materials. The rest of the 1.3 million files have been uploaded online, amounting to 1.67 terabytes of data on the dark web.
Of like unreleased game assets and stuff, or like what are we talking?
Lot of stuff.
So let's talk about this real quick. We're going to talk about some of the things that are in this hack. It is a hack. There are, like, you can go online right now. I saw the footage of early gameplay footage of Wolverine, early animation tests, things like that. There's if you look in this doc here, I posted some stuff for our purposes of like the name of the new Venom game, or at least the name as it is right now. And there's a Venom game. We're going to talk about this stuff. It's news. We can't go around this, but again, it's hacked. The source, it does make this a little bit questionable, but it's out there. It's public data or public information. We're going to discuss it. I'm not going to like point people towards where they can go find the early animation test, beyond saying that it's out there. It doesn't really serve much of a purpose to see those things because it's so early. At the very least, I watched the animation test and you could tell like, oh, this is a team having fun, making stuff for their coworkers. And then it's very easy to be like, man, I feel bad that all this stuff is out there because that was clearly never intended to be out.
It's crazy.
Whoa. So is this like, I'm looking at like the actual flow of a game and like boss fights and like that level of detail?
So there's some information about Wolverine. Again, the data that is probably worthy of discussing here, it is going to come out in 2026 is what they're aiming for. They're in the middle of developing it now. Before that, though, they will have another game, Venom, is going to be coming. That's going to be a standalone 8 to 10 hour experience that they're planning to put out. And again, all this stuff could change. This is as it is internally. And who knows actually when these documents are from. Some of this stuff could already be out of date. This is where it's like hazardous to talk about some of these things.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at like the at one point the roadmap did include Spider-Man 2 and then Wolverine, Spider-Man 3, and then they're going to make some X-Men games down the line, and then they're planning new IPs in like 2031 and 2035. That's how far into the future they are planning right now.
This is like granular detail of like business deals and stuff too. That's so nuts.
So we do have exactly. I'm going to make this big so it's easier for me to read. So they talk about getting the X-Men license and how much that costs. So like here, like this is where it's like actually valuable because it helps us better understand how the industry works. For example, the exclusivity deal, where it's like, okay, between now and December 31st, 2035, Marvel cannot release or announce any X-Men games on console, PC, and streaming, or use X-Men characters as a competitive advantage in a game. For example, play as Wolverine in Ultimate Alliance exclusively on Xbox. X-Men characters can appear in multi-family Marvel games like Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy. So that might date when this happened, when this deal went through, because those games are now pretty old. They wouldn't be of concern. But the time of this writing, it clearly was. But Marvel retains rights to children's games and certain X-Men games from the 1990s, but they cannot release those or re-release them 45 days before or after the release of Insomniac's X-Men games. So this is like a good look at how these deals actually get put together.
Yeah. This feels so like it feels dirty looking at all this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm squinting so I don't see anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it all? You said that some of it was being like held for ransom. Is it all out there, or are they still like threatening, like, oh, we're going to put out more stuff?
I think that they said 2% of the data was sold off. That I don't know exactly what that was. The hackers did claim that they had personal information of people who worked in Insomniac. None of that stuff I haven't seen any of that stuff. I haven't been looking for it either. It's probably out there. But yeah, in terms of like what was sold off and what wasn't, my guess is if something was sold off and it wasn't the personal information, the source codes for these games would be valuable to the less scrupulous developers in some parts of the world. That's happened before, where developers in China have bought the source codes of games that were hacked and then used that to make their games.
Right.
The big one I always remember is, this is ancient, but like the Half-Life 2 source code. Did anything ever come of that? Where like, did people buy it? Did people use it? Or did that just delay development?
I think it just delayed development, but I don't know. I've looked into that a little bit before, and I had the same question, and I couldn't find any exact thing that might have been. But the world's very different now. At this point, it's so much easier to make a game. Someone could take that source code and maybe do something with it, or maybe not. Who knows how it's actually going to go through. Really, what this is going to do is going to feel very bad for the people whose job was to keep this stuff secret so they could build a marketing plan around it. And now it's going to also put expectations on the developer, because they're going to get asked about their X-Men game that they haven't officially announced or confirmed exists. So that's going to be troublesome for them. But again, this information's public. Let's try to put it in context on this show. We'll try to talk about it in a responsible way. The Venom game, I think we talked about it when we all talked about Spider-Man 2. Like, they're probably going to do a Venom game as the next expandalone game. That is what's happening. They're planning that as an 8 to 10 hour standalone experience, 12 missions, that sort of thing. Again, all that stuff could change. But it will have switchable Venom, and apparently the other Spider-Man will still be in the game, but it will be called Venom. So that's coming next year.
Which, I mean, that seems like you just kind of, right, like it's just like pasted on in the way that Morales was, right?
It's going to be like Miles Morales, yeah, and I think that's a really good way of doing that, right?
100%. Playing as Venom is a lot of fun, so...
Right, Miles Morales feels like now he needs to be part of the core Spider-Man games going forward. So how do you expand it out? Yeah, Venom is right there. You do that. That's how I felt when I was finished with that game. I'm like, I would like to play a standalone Venom game. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There is some data about like what they might do with Spider-Man 3. I think the budget for this is maybe the most astounding thing in all of this data, or some of the most astounding. For Spider-Man 3, they're planning it as a 2-part game at $400 million in terms of cost. That's how much it would cost to make it. There's some more data about like how much games cost and how much they need to sell to recoup their costs. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so they would release part 1, and again, all these things could change. Part 1 would release in holiday 2027. Part 2 would release holiday 28 of Spider-Man 3, and both of those would be $50 each, or you could buy it all as one, like a combo pack in 2029 for $60. So, and they also were going to have a multiplayer thing. They have a whole plan to do multiplayer games for all of these games going forward. So there'll be a multiplayer version of Spider-Man. There's going to be a multiplayer version of the X-Men games, Wolverine. All that stuff's happening as well. So they have a lot happening over there at Insomniac.
Insane. Jeff Mike Grubb.
Yes. Jeffrey Michael, please.
Sorry, I was the part.
Jeff Mike. Times. It's a really weird thing to say, but now I'm afraid you're going to do it from now on. So I shouldn't have said anything.
Has there ever been anything this granularly leaked?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think this is unbelievable.
Not for data that is so current and future looking. The Nintendo Giga Leak is massive. It has so much data that people are still going through it today. It's been out for years. People are still combing through it and finding stuff. But that was like Nintendo documents going back for decades. And so people are like picking out things. Oh, this is what happened with that game. And here's something that got mentioned there. This is like the plans. And it's not just for Insomniac. There's data here on like what's happening inside Guerrilla a little bit and how PlayStation thinks about things and things like that. So I don't think there's ever been a hack quite this comprehensive for current and future looking information.
Wait, so the Nintendo Giga Leak thing, you mentioned that being huge. Was that like this level of like announcing future games and assets?
No, again, there was some of that stuff, but mostly it was like data about, how they made Super Mario Sunshine and stuff like that. There's all kinds of stuff in there, though.
Okay.
Historically valuable stuff that actually would have been like, it's good to know, but again, it's a hack. That was a hack as well, I believe. And so it's like illegally sourced, which is always a problem when you're trying to cover these things. When Insomniac looks at how it's when it's making its games, like it's like, okay, how much revenue are we going to make? They're planning to make $1.7 billion in revenue from let's see here, 6 games. That's Miles Morales, Spider-Man 1 Remastered, Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, and Wolverine. People are really looking at Ratchet and Clank here because it lost $8 million according to this chart. But it's like hard to know if that was a projection or actually how much it lost in terms of like, because we can't date this information. So again, it's like important to put this in context. Because what else is on here? Spider-Man 3, Wolverine, games that haven't come out yet. So it feels like all of these are projections, but they do list like how much games need to sell in order to break even. Miles Morales needed to sell 3 million copies. It did way better than that. Yeah. Spider-Man 2 needs to do 5.5. It'll do better than that. Wolverine needs to do 5. But like that's the scale at which PlayStation Studios are working. These games need to sell 5 million copies or more to break even.
It's just so nuts that like these are all just like this is not a very complicated chart. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I find it something. It's not peculiar. It's just very interesting. Like, this is just like a very simple chart with very simple numbers on it, and there's really nothing. There's no like method to the madness, really.
Right. I mean, this chart is the kind of thing you hand to someone at the very tippy top, right? This is not for the actual finance person at
this is
Insomniac Games. Yeah. This is like the simplified version of how they're making their decisions. They talk a little bit about like what PlayStation thinks about Microsoft acquiring Activision. They said it's a leapfrog strategy, and this is data from PlayStation, not just from Insomniac. It says Activision provides incredible strategic value across live service games, scale and mobile, and PC storefront with Battle.net. In addition, Microsoft is building a mobile game store to compete with Apple and Google. And so this is how the PlayStation views the threat. They also have a lot of information here about like, how they're worried about Call of Duty and how the shift of Microsoft taking that over will affect things. But it's stuff they've talked about in so many terms before, but now we get a little bit more information about how they think about it. They also are like worried about the best way to frame and present their subscription service. They said it's an elusive, perfect game subscription, trying to figure out what this actually looks like. They want to have premium content, and they want to have a unified sort of presence across mobile, PC, and console. But they also are worried about how these things are going to impact the sales of their premium games. That's their biggest concern still. And they don't really know how to solve that when they're positioning themselves up against Game Pass. These are things they still talk about in these in this content. Mostly, though, it's like it's interesting to figure out, hey, okay, Insomniac is thinking 10 years ahead of time. And when we're talking about the next Ratchet and Clank game, that is like 2029. But they're already planning it right now today. And that is 6 years in the future. And then their new IP starts in 2031. That's how long it takes to start planning a game these days. You are thinking almost a full decade ahead of time. And for Insomniac, you're like, I believe they can execute on this, but that's a well-managed, well-organized studio. Imagine what it must be like at a studio that has a little bit more drama happening internally, and you're not Insomniac that's had 3 or 4 great hits in a row. It's got to be a lot more challenging, and I bet it's still challenging for Insomniac as well. Who knows what's going to happen as a result of these hacks? Who knows if they're going to change things up because this stuff is public now. But a lot of these things they're committed to, we're definitely going to get X-Men games from them. How do you guys feel about like a more than a decade straight of basically Marvel games and then a Ratchet and Clank game from Insomniac?
It's wild to see how things have swayed back into licensed IP, right? Like I feel like
there's a hard way.
Big distaste for like, oh, this is a shitty licensed Marvel game, Disney game, etc. But then to see those games kind of being major tent poles specifically for Sony, right? Like Spider-Man is bread and butter and it's hardcore associated with Sony and PlayStation in my mind now.
Yeah. I don't think it's a 1-to-1 comparison, but remember that meme of like the MCU phase like 3 thing where like you see movies into like the 2040s and you're just like, what the fuck? They're going to make 18 Doctor Stranges? Like, and my point being that they're not the same because it's much easier to make a movie than it is a video game or a AAA video game like this. Like without a doubt,
it is.
That is an objective truth. I don't know, but with that said, like the planning for games has to be much more involved and conscious of like your time because of how long development does take. So I do wonder if like any of this would change. Obviously, when you look at that MCU meme, there's dozens of things that are just not happening anymore, right? Like things go and change and they move around. At the same time, there's only like 10 games here, right? Because of how long it takes to make a video game. So you got to imagine
it starts spreading out too. Like we were getting game after game from them a couple years in a row. Well, turns out that's not going to last forever.
Right. Exactly. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
I just feel so bad for everyone at Insomniac. And like, I'm not advocating for cyber attacks on anyone, but why Insomniac?
Yeah,
Like,
I
is
think
it
there's no,
this?
I don't think
mean,
there's any reasoning to that.
I don't know. I also, maybe I'm foolishly cautiously optimistic. I don't know. Again, like, obviously there's compromises here that cannot be unseen and cannot be undone. I think I hope that ultimately the end sort of like gross of it all doesn't change the sort of outcome of like how things would go. I think you could say probably something similar about like something like that GTA 6 trailer getting leaked, or like,
Sure.
not sure how much that actually does move the needle. And I hope Insomniac experiences a similar sort of non-turbulent future with this. But man, it's a bummer.
Yeah. I also feel bad for the studio. It's going to cause a lot of headaches, especially at the end of the year. Yeah. Getting hacked must be a terrible experience. I don't know. The final couple things here. If we're like looking at like costs to make a game, Spider-Man 2 cost $315 million. Now, I don't know if that's just development costs and also marketing, but even if it is, it's like that is a huge number. This is why we are getting what we are getting from game developers and publishers these days, because you look at how much it costs to make a game that can perform as well as Spider-Man 2, and you're like, okay, we're going to have to spend $200 to $315 million, and they're planning to spend $385 million making Spider-Man 3, by the way. They have that listed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be even more. And you look at that number, you're like, okay, how much money on top of that would it cost to turn a new IP into something that is as valuable and as capable of selling well as Spider-Man? And they look at the numbers and it just doesn't make sense. So if you are getting a little bit sick of big IPs and you want these studios that you love to go back to making original IPs, it might be time to look at it and be like, that seems more unlikely than ever. They're planning to make a new IP in the 2030s. Like, forever from now. That could change.
Right. What does that even
could change?
I do think games have the advantage of the space between, right? I do think where like you are, again, back to that MCU thing where you are, and it happened, right? Like there was a Marvel overload where like, we experienced that fatigue. The gap in between games is time allows for there to be a recharged interest, I think. But it's just, I guess at the end of the day, the budgets don't surprise me, really. I think like
we had the sense that they were above 200 million for a while now. So the fact that they're over 300 million after years after hearing 200 million, of course they are.
Sure. Yeah.
And the good news for Sony is they're pretty good at picking the winners, the ones that are going to make them back their money. God of War and Last of Us, those games also are $200 and $250 million projects. And sure, they aren't as profitable as some things because they are so expensive, but they're still very profitable, it seems like, based on these results.
And I totally understand people's disposition to Insomniac being quote unquote stuck making licensed games. But the thing is, if it were any other studio, I trust Insomniac the most to flip it around and make something amazing out of it. Back like you've talked about MCU fatigue, and I've beat this drum a bunch, that giant fan of Marvel and all that jazz. The movies have absolutely bored me over the last couple of years. Like I didn't think I'd ever experience the fatigue, and I was really latching on to all those Disney Plus shows, but I can't bring myself to watch Secret Invasion. Didn't finish Loki season 2.
Didn't even start it.
Don't quite care for any of the upcoming releases, but when it's like a Marvel game from Insomniac, I want to be like day one. Especially if they might feature my the best X-Men soon.
I think they make if they're making the Wolverine game, then you make Cyclops his sort of foil, like the friend that is also the rival in the X-Men games. I think that's the way to do it. Especially since apparently this is the one small, very tiny spoiler that shouldn't be surprising to anyone. Jean Grey is going to be a big part of the Wolverine game. So you take that into the X-Men games. And right there, you have your love triangle ready to go. The other slide here where they talk about their multiplayer ambitions. They, according to this chart, they've been working on their multiplayer architecture for the last 3 years. And the intention is in 2024 to launch Spider-Man 2 online. And then in 2026, they will have Wolverine online. And then in 2028, and this is like, that'll be like, so multiplayer 1.0 will be Spider-Man 2 online. Then they will update that with multiplayer 2.0 in Wolverine Online. And then they will have a multiplayer 3.0. No details about what that means. I guess we can imagine multiplayer 3.0 with X-Men Online in 2028. So their plan is make these big tentpole blockbuster games, and then their multiplayer / live service ? Games will be multiplayer modes in these massive games. Now, we were just talking about, hey, a Spider-Verse game. This seems like Spider-Verse was probably just a code name for this stuff. I mean, they do have like a Spider-Man, the Great Web thing here in some of the documentation. Exactly what that is, I'm not sure. But yeah, it seems like this is going to be their big plan, is to have these two forks of the big tentpole games and then multiplayer modes for those games as updates that come out later. So cool. All right. I don't know. Any other thoughts on Insomniac before we move on, guys?
Can you imagine planning your life 10 years ahead of time?
I can't even plan 2 days forward or backward.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like seeing these dates like printed anywhere. That's upsetting. Please make it go away.
All right. Hey, Suicide Squad spoilers are out there, and I saw some people getting upset about this. But guess what? The Suicide Squad spoilers are for the subtitle being "Kill the Justice League." Guess who dies in the game? Those are the spoilers. So yeah, avoid them. But if you think, hey, oh my God, Batman dies in this game, that's such a spoiler. I bet there's more to the story than that. That stuff, like audio and some clips, are getting out there of these moments. So if you want to avoid like how they happen, do that. And then there is no information about like, oh well, Batman's probably going to come back, or maybe he won't. I don't know. But the full story's not out there. So yeah, if you want to avoid some spoilers, they're out there. But avoid it if you want.
In the words of the great Tamor Hussein, grow up.
Grow up, indeed. Obsidian co-founder has talked about getting rejected for when he pitched Elder Scrolls spinoffs to Bethesda. Obsidian has proposed multiple times to develop more Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls spinoffs, but were rejected by Bethesda. The last mainline Fallout game was 2015's Fallout 4, and the most recent non-mobile series entry was 2018's online multiplayer title Fallout 76. Todd Howard said in 2021 that he would be hesitant to outsource Fallout 5. Howard reiterated last year that Fallout 5 remained behind Elder Scrolls 6 in the studio's production queue. But apparently Obsidian was like, hey, we'll do that. We'll take that on in the past. This hasn't happened recently. But in the past, they were like, hey, we'll pitch this. We'll do this in the Elder Scrolls or Fallout. And it's been very hard to get, it's seemingly Todd Howard, but all of Bethesda to be like, we're okay with that. It seems especially true of the Elder Scrolls. This doesn't make a ton of sense. At a certain point, Bethesda's going to have to let someone else make a Fallout, or else we're not going to get a new Fallout game until like 2040. So I'm not exactly sure what they're thinking here. Obsidian seems like a good choice for this, especially these days. That's a quality studio. Video footage, VHS footage of Mario 64's two-player mode showed up recently. This is from a Space World show from 1995, and it has a glimpse of what looks like possibly Luigi, or maybe just the color was shifting on a second Mario character, but there were two Mario characters running around on the screen at the same time. This is something that Miyamoto had talked about being a part of the game early on, and then they removed. But you can actually see a quick glimpse of this for the first time ever, and it's from a video from almost 28 years ago.
Is it split screen, or is it on the same?
Two Marios on the screen at the same time.
That would have been fucked up.
How did that work? Exactly, fucked up is what I think too.
Like, is there like an invisible wall that happens, or could Luigi go all the way up to King
figured out
Bob
any
and Mario's?
of those problems. This is probably why they cut it, right? They probably had no solutions to all those issues. That's also a game they made, and we mentioned this on Game Us Mornings, but that's a game they made in like 18 months, like a year and a half.
Wow.
Right. So it's like they were probably like, any sort of thing that presents a lot of problems that we need to solve, fucking cut it, get it out of here. Let's just focus on the stuff that's right in front of us. That's going to make this game the most fun right away. And thankfully, they had that stuff figured out. Great game. I still don't know how two players in a 3D environment on the same screen happens.
I was going to ask y'all, because I'm not as well versed with Mario 64, but does that game feel like it'd be okay with a second person?
I mean, the only things I'm the first I've thought about it, but like imagine like King Babam, the first star, like, you know, Luigi's over here like, hey, King Babam, and Mario's getting behind him and grabbing him instead of having to do a weird flip or run around, you know, like there's elements that could be fun. Like if they announced that some fucked up 2-player Mario 64 is coming to Switch Online like tomorrow, I would absolutely jump in there and like
you could see it be like sandboxy fun too. Like, we both get we make our own race or whatever, and then I go get the turtle shell. Yeah, exactly. We both thought about the turtle shell right away.
Race to see who can get 8 red coins first. Like, okay, maybe there's some things that could be fun there. Yeah,
exactly. Elden Ring DLC is possibly coming soon. According to a retail listing, Elden Ring's first expansion, Shadow of the Erd Tree, could release in February. The listing was uploaded by retailer Data Blitz and has since been pulled. However, it included details of an upcoming Elden Ring themed controller from Thrustmaster. The controllers were said to be released in February 2024 to, and this is a quote, sync with the new Shadow of the Erd Tree expansion release and Elden Ring's second anniversary. Normally, when these things get entered into retail sites, it's easy to ignore because it's probably someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. But this seems more plausible just based on it having that controller attached to it and saying that the reason for the release timing was the syncing with the expansion. Also, February seems a perfectly reasonable time to release an expansion for Elden Ring. I've been waiting. Let's make it happen.
I'm too scared. I'm not ready to go back in that world.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Take my life. Yeah. We haven't heard much about Shadow of the Erd Tree for a while since they announced it. I thought it would showed up at the Keeleys. So if the fact that it wasn't there does make me question this. But they could announce that thing and release it a month later.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're going to
it does not matter. They could still announce it and release it in February. We'll see though. Last couple stories here. Activision Blizzard has to pay $54 million to settle its discrimination lawsuit. Activision Blizzard will pay that $54 million settlement to end a 2021 sex discrimination lawsuit. The publisher, which was acquired by Microsoft in October, entered into an agreement with the California Civil Rights Department to settle the case, which was related to claims of unequal compensation and promotion practices on the basis of sex from 2015 to 2020. So just 5 years of a little sex discrimination. Activision Blizzard will pay as much as $46.75 million of that money to female employees who claim they received inequitable pay during this period. Might sound like a lot. It's really a slap on the wrist. Not even that. If you look at like comparable cases, Riot, a studio that is half the size, has half the employees, had to pay twice as much. They had to pay $100 million, and there was complaints about that not being enough. So $54 million for Activision is a very small number. They basically got away with a speeding ticket here. But hey, that's Bobby Kotick's whole MO, always getting away with things. So yeah. But as part of this, they also said, oh, there's no evidence of wrongdoing by Bobby Kotick or the board of directors. So,
sure there is.
And that was part of the settlement agreement. So it was like very important to Bobby Kotick that they said that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. This is one of the reasons to be optimistic about the Microsoft takeover is like maybe things will get a little bit better. Bobby Kotick is out at the end of this year.
Does that include, Grub? I don't know if you know, former employees as well?
Yes, so it's anyone that worked there during that period, and it includes contractors as well. So not just employees, but also contractors. If you were a woman contracted to work at Activision Blizzard from 2015 to 2020, there's a way to get some of this money.
If that's the case, $54 million is way too low.
Yes, exactly. It's not going to go very far at all. Let's see here. Max Payne voice actor James McCaffrey has passed away. James McCaffrey, renowned for his role as Max Payne in the iconic gaming series, passed away at the age of 65. McCaffrey, who lent his voice and likeness to the Max Payne character across 3 games, that's mistyped. He wrote just the voice. Reportedly lost his battle with cancer on Sunday. McCaffrey's talent extended to Remedy's game Control, where he portrayed the Federal Bureau of Control Director Zachariah Trench. His performances have left an enduring mark on the gaming community. Remedy also confirmed this and said they were sorry to hear the news and wrote a really nice message about James McCaffrey. McCaffrey was 65. That does it for the news, though, boys. So I'm handing this show back over to you, Jan.
Oh boy, what a doozy to end the news segment on.
Yeah. So sorry about that, but yeah, shout out to James McCaffrey.
Shouts out to James McCaffrey. Actor. Go play Alan Wake 2 and celebrate his fantastic work.
It's Alex Casey. He does the voice of Alex Casey.
Very good. To his voice, you know. What is that? It's not a moan. Was it a growl?
It's it's a growl.
A growl.
A growl. Yeah, like that. Where.
Wow.
You got it. You get that vocal fry. Yeah.
It's the fry. Yeah.
Yeah.
My feet were bloody and wet. Yeah.
Alex.
sauna. Oh wait, I'm not finished.
There you are, Tom.
And there you are, another break, and we'll be back with some emails after a quick break. Go take a 1 minute nap. Challenge starts now. Wakey, wakey, it's time to read some emails. These are the emails for Virch. Virch.org now apparently leads to giantbomb.com/chat. So,
Nice.
hey,
Wonderful.
welcome to our service. We're here today to read to you emails, the electronic variety. Bombcast at Giant Bomb is the email address to send your emails to. I appreciate every single email, whether or not you sign us up for a spam list or not, or for whatever reason we're still on, or we've wound up on, or still on a lingerie email distribution thing. So yeah, that's cool, I guess. First,
Love a push-up bra.
love a good push-up bra, a magic bra, whatever you want to call it, a good lacy number.
A good lacy number.
A good lacy number never mind, I'm not going to finish that sentence. First email comes from Reza. Hey GB crew, Merry Xmas and Happy New Year. Got some questions that needs either an I do or I don't. Number one,
Okay.
brushing teeth in the shower.
I don't.
I do occasionally.
Situational, right?
Yeah, situational.
Never have I done it ever.
Really?
I don't think it's
Really?
that weird, the idea of it, but I don't think I've ever done it.
I just don't understand why. Like, is time that much of a crunch?
I don't think you're
That, like,
saving
you-
time, though.
Yeah. Like some
Yeah.
things make
Is
sense.
that
Like,
what it
I
is?
shave my head in the shower because then it's like, well, the little hair things go into the drain. There's like a functional reason
The
for it.
little
I don't.
hair things. Yeah.
Yeah. Just it's not even. They're not even hair. They're
It's
just
just stubble.
fuzz,
Yeah.
You know.
Sure,
yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
But at least the shower makes the cleanup make more sense.
I get it.
Whereas
And
like the toothbrushing, I don't really get the functional part of it.
Sometimes
why
you just
does it
want to
help?
spit all over yourself.
See, like that's what I'm saying. Like there'd be no way that I wouldn't do that and therefore would feel insane.
Yeah, I want to avoid that. That's why I limit it. But yeah, sometimes you know what it is? It's like when I'm like really tired, but I still for some reason feel a need to take a shower before bed because it was like a busy, long day. And I'm like, I'll just get this shit out of the way, clean my mouth, clean my body, get to bed right away. It doesn't happen very frequently.
It just seems like overkill. It seems like
It's
doing
not
too
a question
much.
on his list, but I don't pee in the shower. And I feel like I'm the weird one out now. I've been made to feel.
I pee everywhere, man.
Yeah, like no matter where I'm going, I'm pissing. No, I think pissing in the shower is fine because I also get activated by warm water. Like I can't not piss in the shower.
Right, if it's just like association of that point.
That's info we shouldn't have.
Like a summer rain is bad news if you're around Bacalar.
I'm just saying, no, warm water, like that's the thing. It makes everyone want to pee. If you're not pissing in the shower, if I'm not pissing in the shower, I'm actively like holding it in and like I'm compromising the integrity of the shower. So I don't want to do that at all.
In defense of brushing your teeth in the shower, sometimes you have to leave conditioner or shampoo in, right? And maybe you've already sudsed up your body, so you got all that time to kill of letting the conditioner set. I realize this is a problem that some of us...
I don't know what that means.
I do it with the beard. I put the conditioner in the beard first because I figure then it can just sit in there the whole rest of the shower.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Number 2, finishing the last bite of food for your partner's/kids' plate instead of throwing it away when they can't finish. This is why I'm fat.
Yes. This is
why I'm chubby.
This is like 15 pounds of my overweightness right here.
Yeah.
I'll only do it if it's something I want. Like if it's just like, if it's something I don't want, I let it go.
No, sure.
But like, yeah, I mean, I'd say half the time I'm grabbing
it's like
for sure.
The last 3 bites of their grilled cheese sandwich, I might not eat all, but I'll take a couple more bites of that.
If there's something that looks real good, I'll take a big old Jeff bite out of it,
Here's the thing. Emmy will walk up to me sometimes, not even asking, be like, hey, finish this, and then shoves a spoon into my mouth. And suddenly I'm eating half a bowl of rice. And I'm like, I'm looking at her. This is why I can't lose weight.
You're just the garbage disposal at that point.
That's what she calls me.
You're just the dumpster.
She's like, oh, my little raccoon, eat the garbage.
There you go. I'd rather drop this in you than the trash. So here it is.
These terms of endearment, I can't tell anymore.
Yeah,
Sometimes I don't know if she just doesn't want to learn how to use the compost bin. Anyway, number 3, sitting till the end of video game credits.
I do.
I try to, but not always.
I'll do the speed thing if there's like an analog stick down to speed through. I'm like, all right. Yeah. I'm respecting the devs, but faster.
I'm letting my eyes do all the work.
Fast respect. Yes.
Yeah.
Number 4, skipping dialogue when you've already read the subtitles.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll never skip it before I've read it, but I will do a quick scan, then I'll skip. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I skip it in it took me it was like 15 minutes before I was doing that all over Starfield, and I was just like, everyone shut up. I don't care. I don't care.
Every game. Yeah, pretty much every game. If I'm reading faster than they're talking, skip next line.
Unless I'm like captivated by the scene.
Yeah, I'm torn by Metal Gear Solid because like all those codecs in the early games. It's just like, man, I love everything they're saying and I love the voice acting, but it's like a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, do the smell test on food left on the counter overnight to see if it's still good.
Leaving food on the counter overnight?
Yeah. I do that to all food. I'll smell all food. I'll be like, is this food bad? Yeah, you smell food.
Why are you leaving food on the counter overnight? You're gonna get flies.
It depends on what we're talking about. I don't think it's left uncovered, right? Like you wouldn't leave a slice of pizza uncovered overnight. You'd put like tinfoil over it.
I think that's what the question's implying here. I think the question here is asking if you left a slice of pizza out overnight. I would not trust the smell test to be able to smell that level of bacteria.
Pizza's gonna be fine overnight anyway.
Put it in the fucking fridge.
I'm with you, Dan.
Put it in a tinfoil, wrap it up, put it in the fridge.
For
what are
the
you doing?
third time we agree.
You're gonna get flies, and your place is gonna smell.
Totally. For the third time we agree. But
as a kid, my family would keep it in the oven overnight, and I'm like,
that's fine.
It's not, but yeah, I did it, and that was fine. You're right. Maybe it is fine because it was never a problem for us.
What is the oven if not another closet when it's not on? I mean, come on.
Hey,
storage, baby.
Talking about leftover food. Here's a pro tip that I've done mildest amount of research for, so don't completely take my word for it. Yo, babies out there, not actual babies. If you got leftover rice, freeze that shit and then reheat it, because you lower the glucose in it. So all my diabetic friends are on the verge of diabetes. If you got worried about glucose, there you go, babes.
This does sound like science.
Hey, again, quick tangential research.
Grub, where's that barbecue meat at right now?
It's in my freezer in the garage, and so you messaged me and you're like telling me about the Casey Joe's delivery, and then the next thing you're like, and there's a deal. Have you already ordered? I'm like, no. And like, so I got a free extra pound of the burnt ends.
Yeah, I did that too.
I'm kind of thinking I have enough that I could get some of this early and then still have enough for the Christmas dinner.
Throw it in the fridge a day or two before, get it all softened up, and then
okay. So I should throw it in the fridge, not straight from the freezer.
Yeah. Throw it in the fridge, let it kind of soften up, but then you throw the whole package in the pot of water.
Right. They gave me the reheating guide, and I put that in the freezer too, so I know exactly where it is. But yeah, okay, I'll read that up and make sure I do it exactly right. But yeah, I'll throw it in the fridge. I'm very excited about that. So
douse it in that sauce.
No problem there. That's gonna yes.
Okay. I need to hear immediately as you're eating it. Yes.
I want BBQ now.
Me too.
It came in like a couple of days. Casey Joe's, you just ordered it
I can order it online?
That's what I did. Get the burn ends.
What the fuck?
I got a freezer full of it.
Delivered in a little styrofoam cooler with the dried ice. It came completely frozen. I put it right in the freezer. It has the reheating guide where it's in a plastic casing. So I'm like, I think you're supposed to put it in a boiling water, right? And that's going to heat it back up.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes of boiling. Well, you do boiling, and then when it gets to a rolling boil, you turn the heat off. You toss it in there for like 20 minutes. You pull out the vacuum seal thing, open it up, slather it in the sauce, and go to town.
That's Christmas dinner right there. I'm so excited.
I'm about to be a dirty JPEG eating this.
Let's
I got like 8 pounds of barbecue meat in my freezer right now, and like 10 bottles of the sauce. So
looking forward to it.
Reza has a couple specific questions for me. Jan, if you'd indulge me, need some coffee questions. Number 1, do you scoop out the coffee grounds before pouring it out? Reza should have put this ahead of time, but they use a French press / plunger method to get their coffee. I don't scoop it. I don't like French press coffee, but I wouldn't scoop it out anyway. Just let that juice stir in there, baby. Number 2, should I stir the coffee grounds after the 4 minutes? Yes, get a even extraction. Number 3, what the hell is the dome, and does it actually make coffee taste better? I'm unfamiliar with what you mean by a dome in this context, but in my context, often a dome is just the dome that happens when you pour over coffee. It's just, for me, it evaluates the freshness of the beans and everything. Next email comes from We Tipper. They write in to the show and ask, "Hi, BOMBCAST. Could you guys explain the tipping culture in America to an ignorant European? How much do you guys generally tip? Do you start pulling out calculators to measure how much is 20% of the bill? What happens if you don't tip? Do you get mean looks, called out, thrown out? Do you guys like the tipping system? Regards, We Tipper."
You don't need a calculator for 20. 20 is easy. Course. And I always do 20 as the default, like pretty much no matter what.
One place to the left, or one place, and then you just double that. That's 20%.
Yeah, give me a reasonable a dinner for 2 cost.
So it's going to be $35.27.
$35.27. So 10% would be around $3.50. Double it 7. That's it.
Yep. And then to be safe, you do 7. To be safe, I always go $1 up.
Yep,
so I would do
bump it up a little bit. Yes. And then there are the things like 20 is like the default, and if it's like really, really good service, bump it up a bit. I rarely go below 20 unless someone's like actively being shitty, but that almost never happens.
So I have in the last year discovered I do like the tipping system, and I'll explain why. It gives me agency in my relationship to the person who is serving me my food so that I can feel good about our relationship, regardless of how they feel about their place of employment. I'm tipping them, and a lot of times I'm tipping like the driver. I'm tipping them up front a lot of times, so they see, okay, this person did a good tip, and so I can prioritize taking care of them. And it's not like, oh, I hate my job, so I'm going to take it on this person. It's like, no, this person's tipping me, so I can feel good about it, and they could feel good about it. I still get like anxious going to some place like McDonald's where I know it's just a minimum wage employee in there toiling away, and there's no way for me to let them know I'm on their side. If I could give you more money, I would. If there's no means to do that, so it's like, God, I hope they're okay, and I just have to like roll the dice that they're not upset and they're going to take it out on my food in some way. And maybe that's like anxiety, like, oh, people actually don't do that. But I've worked at places. I know how people can feel, and it's
You were a
been
sandwich artist.
I was a sandwich artist, and that wasn't people like pissing in the lemonade or something like that. But people can get like hurt about like their job and then take it out on people. And I want to get rid of that factor completely.
Yeah. Growing up, my mom was a Chili's waitress, so like I have pretty strong feelings. Like, every night she would come back and she'd be like, "This table at 10 was here for hours and took up this table forever, and they didn't tip shit." And it's like I know how much that like devastates like a single mom working as a waitress, Which, by the way, quick tip while I'm thinking about it: if you type in Amazon, "thank my Amazon driver," Amazon will give the driver of your most recent delivery a $5 tip. So you have nothing to lose. You're literally just giving Amazon's money to your delivery driver.
Yep,
so
free money
just
to
type
them.
that in. No reason not to. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure, it's nice to be able to have that bit of a relationship with your server, right? But like,
I think this is just me. Yeah,
no, you're not wrong. You're coming from the right spot, but like obviously it shouldn't even like be like that, right? Like that's the biggest thing is that people there are too many dickheads that don't tip. So the system is just flawed in so many ways. It's like we can't operate like this, and it's why people like We Tipper come to our ridiculous batshit country, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And understandably so, because what are we doing?
Yeah, for sure. I just when I go other places now, it's like you don't tip here. It's like, yeah, I still really, really want to though.
Right.
I like
it's just because that's how the system spit you out. The system spit you, condition you to be like, I need to do this.
Yeah,
right?
but I work on both sides of it though. It's like, yeah, I just like having that direct relationship with the person that's doing the work for me.
Sure.
We were going to Japan with Tim Turry once, and he used to work at Applebee's before Game Informer. Not Applebee's, Outback. And we went to an Outback in Japan, and he had to like pull the waiters over and talk to him about all the differences and stuff. Oh, we have the same napkin holders. That's crazy. And then like he's like, I know that's not normally how this goes here, but can I tip you? Can I please tip you? It's been so great to be here and talk to you and everything. And they're like, no, seriously, don't do that. We don't do that here. And like it just broke Tim's brain to not be able to tip these Outback waiters.
Right, and it's offensive to tip in some cultures, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been called like I do the 20% thing too. I've never had a situation where just to follow up on the rest of the questions, been thrown out. That would be sick. I've seen people see like this is where it gets ridiculous and messy and dumb. Where like I've seen bartenders literally call out people who like did not tip what they thought they should have been tipped for pouring a drink, and it's just like. I've seen it. I've seen the city dozens of times.
I've had a similar instance with like an Uber or taxi driver when I'm taking a personal ride, and I'll hit 0 on the thing because I just want to give them physical cash. And like they'll get all uppity at first and be like, "Oh, I live on tips."
Yeah, cash is actually better for them.
It's like, no. Here you go, man. Chill out.
You should just do the money first, Jam. What are you doing?
I guess
do
I
the
should have done
first
that.
and then hit the 0.
People do get called out sometimes, and mostly though people just get frustrated and quiet. That's what I mean when I would go in early to Jimmy John's for a big delivery order on Ohio State campus, and like, all right, this order's $300. I'll come in, I'll help make all the sandwiches, I'll deliver it, and then get stiffed on the tip. And that felt real bad. Like I'm expecting to get $30 to $60 and you get nothing. That can be very frustrating. But most people actually do tip, and most people get it. And a lot of times as a delivery driver, it was like, oh, we'll put $1 on this deal. And it's like, okay, well, that still kind of sucks. But going home with cash every night was always good. It's the side where it's like, okay, tipped employees make less than minimum wage because the tips are supposed to make up for it. That's the side that like actually probably should change for sure.
Hey, the Giant BOMBCAST and Giant Bomb in general is the perfect place to seek legal advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're all lawyers.
Yeah.
Hey, if I worked at a coffee shop for X amount of years, and they used the point of sale system where it's the iPads and you add the tips there, and if I never saw any of those tips that got added from a credit card or a debit card transaction, I should probably cause a fuss about that, right?
You should if you have any way of tracking any of that, Jan, and I don't know if you do. But even if you don't, I would estimate and go to your Bureau of Labor in the state, and they will fucking go to town for you. They will, especially in California. They did it for me in Ohio. So if they did it for me in Ohio, California will really get their ass.
All right, the trap house is about to get fucking retroactively
wreck
paid.
These assholes. Yeah, let's go.
I'm not going to say the name of the coffee shop. Next email comes from Daniel. And they write in, "Hi, Bombers. Grub asked the question, who are these people that buy the day before? On the most recent Bombcast, and I can answer that with at least one example. My 67-year-old dad.
What?
He's been a gamer most of his and all of my life. And my very first gaming memory is sitting on his lap at around 5 years old, watching him play Might and Magic 3 in 1991.
Oh, he's a real gamer. Okay.
Wow. In the past couple of years, he's been playing mostly survival games like Scum, Subnautica, Valheim, Grounded, and most recently, Return to Moria. He didn't know how much about the game, as is often the case, that he just fell victim to it. Big thanks to you guys, because otherwise I wouldn't have known to tell him to get a refund for that game. He has never before in his life refunded anything on Steam, and has also played more than the 2 hours, but his request was just granted. Thanks for all that you do, lovely people. Daniel."
I'm very glad to hear that.
What's the TLDR on what is the day before?
Yeah, I was going to give that to you real quick. So the day before is the game that got announced a while back, and it became one of the most wishlisted games on Steam because it kind of looked like, hey, what if The Last of Us was a survival game, which is like catnip to a lot of people, especially on Steam. And it was clear from the beginning to most people that it was not real in any way. It was always
fake trailer stuff.
It was like they would take like the looks, the exact actions that would happen in other trailers, not just like games, but like movies and like the what's the Will Smith movie with the dog,
Men in Black.
Zombies. Yes, Men in Black. You would take the Men in Black movie and they would like make their trailer look just like that. And it's like, okay, clearly they're just lying, but some people got pretty hyped for it. It came out a couple of weeks ago, and it was a disaster. It barely worked. It was clearly just stuff bought off the asset store, a completely empty game, and then the studio shut down 4 days later, and they closed the game.
Holy shit!
So when we talked about it, I was like, I'm mostly glad that games like this can happen, because that means anyone can go make a game and something will come out and actually be good. But that means people should go get refunds if they bought it. And Steam will give you a refund even if you played more than the 2 hours that they say you owe. If you play less than 2 hours, you can get a refund. After that, you have to keep the game. That's not true, especially in a case like this, where they just pulled the rug out from everyone. They are giving refunds to everybody for this game. So definitely go do that. That's another.
Has it been delisted or anything?
Yeah, I don't think you can buy it anymore. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, definitely.
Jesus.
All right. Pocono Paul sent in a very long email about podcast point conversions. So I'm going to go ahead and give Pocono Paul a good 20 podcast points. If you're listening live right now, you get 5. If you're listening to the archive, you get 5. And then you'll get 6 later. When the later point is, I don't fucking know. I just but Pete writes in about being under the influence while playing Alan Wake 2. Hey, Bombcast. During the Game of the Year discussions on the Soulja Boy Presents category, Bacalar had such a strong opposition to playing Alan Wake 2 while high that it made me curious to give it a try. I'm off this week.
That was the takeaway. That was the thing to do.
I'm off this week, so I figured I would set aside a day, have a macro dose in the morning, and fire up New Game Plus for Alan Wake 2. Despite the discussions during Game of the Year, I figured I would have a pretty good time and my state of mind would play well with the trippy aspects of the game. Unfortunately, I did not enjoy it and bailed after a couple hours.
Yeah, shock.
Nothing terrible, but I just wasn't vibing with it really well. Afterwards, I went back to playing Avatar to get a more relaxing experience. Just curious, what are some situations that you have all been in where you were intoxicated from one thing or another and found yourself just wishing you were sober? Thank you guys for endless hours of entertainment, Pete.
I have the opposite, where I was playing Super Mario Brothers while very drunk and high at a friend's house, and it was like everyone was passing the controller around, and everyone was struggling with the level, and it got back to me, and I just basically mainlined it right to the end, jumped over the Hammer Brothers perfectly, slid underneath Bowser, and I looked like king shit for playing a video game, which is, even being good at video games, sometimes it's like that doesn't happen very often, so to be able to like show off and have people actually be impressed, I was clearly in the butter zone there, so yeah.
Love the butter zone.
Boy. like I guess the 3 times I had anything harder than weed, and like when I was 18, like doing mushrooms a couple times, and just like the whole time. Well, no, there's a fun like hour or two there, and then it's just like, oh god, I'm dying, make this stop. Like pretty much just that. Weed will do that something like half the time, I would say. Alcohol, I'm
half the time.
Yeah, like that's why I don't smoke a lot of weed. Like I just like it doesn't really. I'm a very anxious, up in my head person, and like it doesn't take much for me to just like fixate on just like my ears feel weird or something, and then I'm just like having anxiety. Whereas drinking, every time I'm drinking, it's just like this is a good time.
Yeah, if I had a 50% success rate with weed, I'd probably not do that.
Right.
When I do, it's like a 3 milligram seltzer or something.
3 milligram seltzer.
Yeah, one of those during a movie or something like that. It's just nice, and it's enough to feel it a little bit, but you're not at risk of getting up in your head too much.
Huh? They do 3 milligram seltzer.
They have 1 milligram stuff now.
Oh,
Feeling a little like loose.
That seemed a little. Yeah.
That's
seemed a little.
that's
like
they
the
put that in a
CBD
Happy
gummies
Meal.
I have
That's
like 1 milligram, and you won't even you don't even really feel that.
Where do you get your weed seltzer?
That's a big thing here in Minnesota. Because like it's going like full on. Dispensaries are coming like I think within the next year, but there is like a loophole type thing where like in breweries, like you can go to a brewery and you can you'll get like a THC seltzer with your beer or something. You can do that.
I think I accidentally microdosed at a brewery recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like there was something like called Space Dust or something like that, and then afterwards I was.
Oh, that's just a PCP.
Oh shit! There. Cool.
Yeah.
I was telling Emmy, it's like, hey, you're not drinking. You're like, we're Ubering home, right? Like, are we gonna get a ride with someone? I just can't be with people right now. I just felt some type of way.
I need to have weed seltzer. What?
Oh man, come on over. I got a bunch in the fridge.
Yeah, didn't Winbag have one?
Yeah, he had one while he was here.
We got It was like the first time we were there. Winbag grabbed one out of the fridge. It was great.
They're very nice. Yeah.
We got weed root beer over here.
Well, I was puking.
Yeah.
You just puked it up, bro. What are you talking about?
Diarrhea and drinking weed. So living the dream in Minnesota.
That's a fucking party right there.
That's how we party in Minnesota.
That's called Juicy Lucy.
Oh, God.
All right. Last email of the show, the last live BOMBCAST of the year. Who knows if we're going to have time to pre-record something for next week? Probably won't have time. Just want to get that out of the way now. But we would be remiss if we ended the year without reading one last email from Nathan from Tumwater, Washington. Are there any hobbies you picked up during COVID lockdown that you still enjoy? Nathan from Tumwater, Washington.
Just learning a bunch of production shit.
Hey, that is what I applaud Dan for. I'm like, wow, look at you knowing all of this stuff. Look at you diagnosing all this stuff. It's great.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, I always had a Drew or a Vinny or a Hanson or someone before where I would just sit in, be a jackass for a couple hours, and they worry about all this stuff. Now it's like during the pandemic, it's like, all right, I'm gonna set up cameras, gonna learn OBS, all this stuff, and it's like, oh shit, okay, right. Like I used to do a bunch of like video editing and stuff. I like doing that stuff. I used to make a bunch of silly short films, and it's like, oh okay, I felt like I like reactivated something in my brain, and I'm glad I still get to do a lot of that here.
I stopped doing this because it became very costly, but I used to develop film at home, and it was very fun.
At home?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yo, they make the chemicals so much lighter now that it only will slightly poison you, you know?
Hell yeah.
And what do you like, do it in a windowless bathroom or something?
Yeah, you got to load up the film. I don't even know where all
in a
that stuff
bag?
is. I didn't use a bag. I just used my extremely good night vision to unspool the film, load it up into a little thing. And then, you just go to town with the chemicals. That's why I bought a sous vide, not to actually cook, but to like keep my chemicals at the right temperature.
Sure.
The black and white chemicals, though, you can't pour those down the drain. You got to figure out a ditch to throw those away.
Yeah, you just drink those.
Yeah.
Just send them to Canada.
But the part of the reason why I stopped developing film at home, other than film becoming stupid expensive over the course of the pandemic, because a lot of folks were also getting into film, was how time intensive it is to scan every single fucking film negative.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So then, like, imagine, right? You get a film stock of 36 pictures in your head. When you're taking the pictures, like, oh, you're just zooming through it. But then when you have to sit there and scan every single image for like 5 minutes plus, just to get the right thing and then to convert it
Jesus,
afterwards.
Oh, fuck that.
Afterwards, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
That reminds me of the thing that was like not really a hobby because it's something I did for work when I was writing for GamesBeat still, but getting into like benchmarking computer components, GPUs and CPUs. You could try to automate some of that stuff. You can try to like write scripts to go through all these games. But if you do that, something's going to break and it will, all the test results will be completely useless. So you kind of have to babysit it as you're like going through one game after another and all these different components. And it was so time consuming. It's like, this is fun up to a point, but when you're on like the 4th GPU, like in the 15th game for each one of these things, it takes up so much time that it became inane. And I had to stop, even though I really liked getting computer parts for free from these companies to cover them. But even that wasn't worth it at a certain point.
That about does it for emails. Let's get to the final portion of the show. The shout outs. Starting with shouts out to Hi, Mr. Grubb. Hi, Mr. Grubb's previous doctor here. In my defense, he was the first patient I've had that wasn't a horse. And I respected that he didn't want to kiss me. Sincerely, Dr. Richard Handler. DDS, GP, OBGYN, and sleight of hand magician. All right, you saved it there. True story, my dentist gave me shoot horse antibiotics for gum problems. The National Football League MVP frontrunner Brock Purdy is not a system quarterback. He is the system. Bang, bang. Giant bombs, bizarre buffoons balance barefoot on bulky video game bricks, babbling about bewildering behemoth beetles and virtual battles befuddling their feet fleetingly. The Doc Cops. Dan, you ever get to enjoy any more of that Rent a Hero for Dreamcast?
No, that one stream. That was a lot of fun and silly.
Speaking of Dreamcast, question for y'all. If you added a second stick to the Dreamcast pad, would it be the best controller of all time? Brackets. Also, I guess if you added shoulder buttons, second brackets. Yes, this is hypothetical. It still has the VMU.
And you have to make the cable come out the top.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So you make a few slight changes to make it a different controller, then yes.
Yeah.
Shouts out to Kingdom Hearts 2, the perfect game to play for 15 hours of extra life. Shouts out to Mike for helping the team doing Final Mixmas this past Sunday. And also thank you for that beautiful cover / remix of I'll Make a Man Out of You, but switching man to Jan. Fantastic. Shouts out to TC Tuggers, the only shirt that's got a little knob in the front. Happy 30th anniversary to the Mega Man X series. X represents endless possibility. Shouts out to Tanuki, those wonderful, adorable, and oh so fluffy raccoon dogs, especially Science Factory adorable trio, Tsukushi, May, and Mugi, the Tanuki who loves to ride to work in her own doggy travel pouch. Malagayang Pasko, mga kuya. Shouts out to Swagapinos and their drip for Simbang Gabi / Midnight Mass. Virch.org and www.gonzohole.com. Jan, you look great. Bacalar, you look great. Dan, you look great. Oh, oops. Grub, you look great. Dan, you look... Dan, Salt Lick check.
Looking at it right now, I put it in a little notch between two trees, and it has at some point fallen out, but it is still very rectangular.
You got a shitty Salt Lick.
It's also like it's sticking out of some leaves and stuff, so it's surrounded by leaves right now.
One.
Do you think, Dan, that you interacting with the Salt Lick first interfered with...
with your dirty human oils?
Yeah, the deer and turkeys went up and they're like, no, thanks.
You're a fucking JPEG, Dan.
Parentheses. Also, Dan, you look great. Hey, Nose, a very merry fuck you to you. Jangle bells, Grubman smells, Dan can't cook an egg, the Bacalar Mobile has a Logitech wheel, and Minotti went to Disney World to pray. Everybody, Jangle bells, Grubman smells, Dan can't cook an egg. The Bacalar Mobile's Logitech wheel, and Minotti went to the pray. Mike Minotti for a 15-hour extra life stream. Mike sang 16 Disney songs. Shouts out to Marino, the GB community. Game of the Year voting is live now. Big special. Shouts out to Marino.
Yes, for the help. Absolutely.
And for coming out for Game of the Year. That was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Guest list and everything. Just a huge help.
The best egg. Shouts out to Alex Buniello, released the sheet music for the Mike Minotti song Fire Escape for an 8-hour Game of the Year stream. Jesus Christ, your butts. Christmas in San Francisco is dog shit song, and you all know it. All right. Grub, 24 check.
I haven't started back up.
Get on it.
Yeah, I will. I intend to. Maybe that'll be my New Year's resolution is to get back to Jack Bauer.
Yes. Season 3 is hooked on heroin.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
I do need to see that.
Yeah.
That's the best one, I think, for sure.
I'm not going to read this shout out here because words, but shouts out to the GB crew for a wonderful game of the year and wishing y'all happy holidays. And finally, shouts out to, and as Tiny Tam observed, Scout the dog bless us, everyone.
Everyone.
Shouts out to these hooligans around me on the call right here. Shouts out to the other hooligans that are not on the call. I feel like we've had a fucking banger of a year, boys.
Yeah, good work, everybody.
Pretty good.
Absolutely.
Pretty
very
pretty
fun.
good. Pretty good.
Hell of a crew here, huh?
Hell of a crew.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's real good.
I was telling
Everyone's
Emmy
kicking.
afterwards, like, hey, it's not that I'm sad to be back home. It's just like I really enjoyed hanging out with everyone. It was nice to see everyone.
It was a really good time.
I know we've said this before, but it's like, oh wow, I like all these fuckos.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a good time.
Let's meet up more next year.
Yeah, let's
Yep.
do that. Let's do
That's the
that.
plan.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go to the East Coast first or something. You know, make it easy
come to
for
the
Mac.
Midwest if you want some nice wheat seltzers.
No, I just found out I could have it sent to me. So, but thank you.
Okay. Well, I got a great diarrhea toilet if you're ever feeling not great. So
Cool.
Hey,
Can I puke in that too?
Top tier. Top tier.
I legitimately had the idea this weekend when Mahardy was here because we got Juicy Lucy's and he was saying like, oh, the dairy, I'm probably gonna have like a diarrhea explosion near your bathroom. I said like, if you do, use this particular one. And I legitimately thought about getting plaques made up of my friends who have diarrhea in that bathroom and putting them up like Grub.
If I sent you like a portrait, like when a celebrity eats at a restaurant, would you put it in that bathroom?
Oh,
Yeah, why
that's
not?
awesome.
All right,
do
yeah,
that.
I'll
sign
send
it.
to you.
Sign it.
I'll sign it, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
black and white.
Headshot.
Okay, I have the perfect picture. Okay, it's
I'll
not me
put it
having
in there.
diarrhea. Don't worry.
Oh boy, Grub, what do we got going on the rest of this week?
Wait, for our sins, I think mostly.
Wait, I'm just imagining, like, middle of the week, Dan just like walking around the house, goes into that bathroom, admiring all the people who shit in that bathroom, just be like, oh, you remember that shit? Yeah, we got to change the
It
plumbing.
would be
on
fun
that
if it
one.
did become a thing for that bathroom, just a bunch of our
why
good
not?
friends' photos.
Why
Yes.
not? It's already a weird house.
So good.
Okay, so let's see here. Game Best Mornings, last one of the year is tomorrow, everybody. And guess who's on there? Lucy James. Look out for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. What else do we have happening? Tomorrow, we're going to do a Blight Club, right?
Yes.
We're going to do a Blight
Yeah.
Club a little bit earlier. And then is the plan to do Lethal Company after that?
Yeah,
Okay.
whoever can
I
show up.
downloaded it.
Okay, Lethal Company. I'll send you guys a zip file for the mods. We're going to try to get as many people in the Lethal Company as possible. The game was not available for sale yesterday. We were worried about it. It's back up now, though. So I think we're good. So we'll get that happening. That will probably be one of the last big things we do, and then we'll have a voicemail dump truck on Thursday. But we're probably not going to do a BOMBCAST Revengeance this Friday, right?
Probably not.
Correct.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, and then doing a bombcast next week. It's just no promises. There definitely won't be a live one for sure. We might have something in the feed, but just no promises because it's the end of the year and we're kind of wiped out, everybody. Game of the Year lists are going up, so look out for that on the site.
Yes.
And then you can catch up with our Game of the Year content on there as well.
Did we say one more dumperoonie too?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
we will have the dump truck on Thursday. That will be live, so look out for that.
Yes.
That
and
will
the
be
last
live.
dump of the year.
Last dump of
Yeah.
the year. Get your calls in 707 exit flu. And that does it for the last episode of the Giant Bombcast, at least the live episode of the year of 2023. Holy smokes, y'all. We done did it. We done did it.
Unreal.
I am so happy and so proud of this team. Special shouts out to everyone. You know what? I'll say this for everyone. Thank you to Turbo Sean. Thank you to Nikki. Thank you to Emma. Thank you to Bailey. Thank you to Marino. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Mike. Thank you to Tam. Thank you to Lucy. Thank you to Dan. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you to me. And thank you for the folks at home. You've been absolutely amazing this year. Whether you've been a listener for a long time, a short time, I love you. I'll kiss you in the mouth if you want to reclaim any of your podcast points. Actually, you know what? Hey, if you just come to me and be like, yo, this happening, then hey, it's happening. I've been Jan. He's been Jeff. He's been Jeff. He's been Dan. You at home have been great. We love you. We'll see you next year for another episode of the Giant Bombcast.
Bye, everyone. Kisses.
Love you. You're doing great. You're doing great. Goodbye.